I woke up to the sound of sobbing. A beautiful girl was kneeling before me, tears streaming down her face, begging me not to sell her to a brothel. That is when it hit me I had transmigrated. She was begging not to be sold. That is when it hit me I had transmigrated. In my past life, I was the legendary mercenary king to build a massive business empire. But a heart attack ended all that, dragging me into the body of a 19-year-old loser named Li Chan in the ancient empire. In this dying empire, the original Li Chan was a real piece of work. After his parents died when he was 17, he spiraled, no guidance, just drinking and gambling. Just 2 months ago, he found a starving refugee girl named Yu Qingwan. Yu Qingwan, she was only 18. She planned to sell her to a brothel for quick money, but when she cleaned up, she turned out to be a beauty. So he just turned her into his servant wife instead. He was basically useless in bed. The doctor said all that drinking and burnout finally caught up to him. That just made him way more aggressive. Just before I showed up, he was dragging her toward the door to sell her off for drinking money. He tripped, hit his head on the door frame, and that is exactly when I finally took over. I looked at Qingwan as she held 10 copper coins in her shaking hands. It was laundry money, and she begged me to keep her. She even told me to go ahead and beat her if it would make me feel better. She begged me to keep her, offering to let me hit her if it helped. She pulled off her shirt and lay over a broken stool, ready for the whip. Her back was covered in scars, both old and new. She lay over a broken stool, ready for the whip. Her back was covered in scars, old and new, some still bleeding. My heart ached. I threw the whip away and quickly covered her up. The old Li Chan is gone, I told her quietly. You will not see him again. She misunderstood though, thinking I was leaving her forever. Tears just poured down her face. I shook my head and told her flat out that I'm not selling her. Then, hunger hit me like a massive wave. I asked if there was anything to eat, but the house was completely empty. Qingwan hurried out to trade her copper coins for some basic flour from a neighbor nearby. After she left, I thought about the broken world I landed in. While she went for flour, I thought about this place. The dying empire was 200 years old and rotting from the inside out. Raiders were attacking from the north and the west. The entire land was covered in bodies and starving refugees. The court was totally corrupt. The nobles had all fled south, abandoning their own people to die. Families couldn't even scrape together one single meal a day. Suddenly, I heard Qingwan scream from outside. People couldn't even afford one meal. Then I heard Qingwan scream. A local thug named Zhang Yu was trying to steal her flour and drag her off. He was the nastiest bully in the village, and his brother was actually connected to a local bandit gang. Even the old Li Chan used to be terrified of him, but I wasn't the old Li Chan anymore. Zhang Yu, how dare you? I shouted, grabbing a short knife and rushing outside despite my weak, shaky legs. He kicked her. Qingwan closed her eyes, just waiting for the worst. But I stepped right in front of her. I wasn't strong yet, but I stood there like a solid wall between her and danger. I stepped in front of Qingwan exactly as Zhang Yu's kick came flying right at her. I grabbed his foot and tossed him hard to the side. Just as his kick flew toward her, I cut his foot and shoved him. He landed in a painful split right on top of a sharp rock. He cursed me out, but I didn't hesitate. I drove my knife straight into his right shoulder. Blood was pouring out. Get lost, I snapped. But the idiot didn't run. He kept threatening me, saying his brother's bandit crew would come chop me up and do awful things to Qingwan. That sealed his fate. I scanned the area, nobody in sight. I looked around, not a soul nearby. My house sat way out on the village edge, tucked behind a hill. I scanned the area, no witnesses. My house was isolated behind the hill. I drove the blade deep into his neck and gave it a hard twist. No witnesses. I jammed the knife into his throat and twisted. He died right away. Qingwan screamed. I told her to go cook while I handled the body. I held him to a nearby cliff and shoved him off. I told her to go cook while I dealt with him. I dragged him to a cliff and threw him over. Nature would do the rest. By then, I was lightheaded and starving. Qingwan was prepping food, her hands shaking like crazy. I washed my hands and sat down. Have you ever seen anyone get killed before? I asked. She said she had back when she was a refugee, but she feared the law would come for us. I told her nobody saw anything. In times like this, the government doesn't give a damn. I told her nobody saw a thing. These days, the government doesn't care anyway. I explained that Jong-ho's brother had ties to the Black-Green bandits. If he lived, he would have come back with a whole gang to wipe us out. Killing him was our only real option. He would have brought a gang to kill us. This was the only way. What if they find out? She asked, trembling. She was trembling. Then I will just kill more of them, I said calmly. While she cooked, I thought about my future in this new world. In my past life, I was a mercenary king and a tycoon. But even with all that money, I still had to bow to people with real power. Money wasn't enough, military muscle wasn't enough. Only true authority, the power to rule actually mattered. This time round, I am climbing to the very top. Dinner was a pot of wild vegetable porridge with some coarse flour. That was literally everything we had. Dinner was just vegetable porridge and flour. That was all we had. Salt was expensive and government controlled, so Qingwan only added a few tiny grains. The porridge tasted bitter and rough, but I've eaten way worse. As a mercenary, I'd bugs or whatever kept me breathing. Still, we couldn't live like this forever. I needed a plan. I looked at a Taibai mountain vast and full of game. Hunting would keep us fed while I rebuilt my strength. The mountain was full of game. Hunting would feed us and help me get strong. Once I was ready, I could think bigger. After dinner, I went into the west room, my father's old carpentry workshop. Inside a long box, I found about 10 euros coated in tin oil. Everything was still perfectly preserved. Everything was preserved. I restrained the bound and headed outside. That's when I saw Qingwan by the stove. She was scraping the last bits of flour from the pot with her finger and licking it clean. I realized I had eaten almost all the porridge myself. She barely had anything. I sat and stepped outside, holding up the bowl. I'm going to take a few shots to test this, I told her. She didn't even see the bowl in my hands. She only heard me say I wanted to shoot a few. Her face turned bright red instantly. She stammered nervously, saying it was still daylight and maybe we should wait. Daylight is better, I said, confused. Her face flushed even darker since I could not see in the shadows. She totally misunderstood and thought I was talking about something else entirely. Her face turned bright red because she completely misread what I was actually saying. Without a single word, she turned around, shut the door and began undressing. I had absolutely no clue what was going on right then. What are you doing? I asked, completely stunned. Qingwan was literally taking off all of her clothes. When I said I wanted to shoot some, she definitely thought I meant something else. I held up the bowl and explained. She squeaked, then crouched down and hid her face with her hands. She let out a little squeak and covered her face while ducking down. I grabbed her clothes, draped them over her and walked out the door. My heart was pounding, but I managed to keep it together. Standing in the yard, I realized my body was working just fine. Looking down in the yard, I saw my body was responding perfectly. Guess the orderly chance issues did not follow me after my transmigration. Maybe I will test that theory tonight. I cleared my head and focused on the wooden bowl. It was a triple composite bowl, good build, but just average power. My father made it for a local hunter, but a wild boar killed the man before he could pick it up. Dad made it for a neighbor, but a wild boar got him first. In my past life, I was a total master of weapons like guns and bows. I had survived jungle warfare with handmade bows once my ammo finally ran out. I propped a wooden target against a tree and prepared to take aim. When I focused, something crazy happened. The target zoomed in like I was looking through a scope. Only 1 in 10,000 snipers hits this level of hyperfocus. In my old life, it took 10 seconds to get there. It usually took me at least 10 seconds to reach that state. Here, it was instant. 20 paces, straight bullseye. Bullseye. I ran back 10 more paces, spun around and let it fly. 30 paces, hit. I rolled on the ground, drew and fired. 40 paces, hit again. Every single time, I hit the perfect focus state instantly. Past 40 paces, though, the bow just lacked the necessary power. Qingwan leaned against the door, watching me with her cheeks still flashed pink. Just then, a bird flew overhead. I knocked an arrow and fired in one perfectly smooth motion. The bird dropped straight out of the sky. I knocked, drew and fired smoothly. The bird fell and I walked over and handed it to her. Cook this and eat. I am heading to the mountains. She stared in disbelief. I gave it to her and told her to eat. She looked stunned. You are giving me your bird? I almost tripped. Yeah, eat the bird. It is yours, I said, walking away. It was mid-afternoon, so I had to hurry or I would be stuck overnight. Near the village, some women with baskets of wild veggies saw me carrying the bowl. Look, Li Chan is going hunting. One of them laughed. Watch that pretty face. Another teased. A bold woman named Marian offered me buns for any game, grinning and showing off her curves. Most men were drafted for the northern border war, so the women left behind were pretty restless and forward. They all thought I was a joke, just the local troublemaker pretending to be a hunter. They all thought I was a joke, just a neighborhood troublemaker trying to play hunter. I ignored them and kept walking. I could hear them chattering behind my back. He has his wife but thinks he can hunt. There are bears and even tigers up there. He is walking to his death. Only Liu Jinxi, the village chief's wife, spoke up for me. Leave him alone. He is not a bad guy. Half an hour later, I was deep in the mountains. Those 5-foot draw practice shots in the yard had really wiped me out. My hands were still shaking. Those 5 shots in the yard drained me and my hands were shaking, but I slowly started to recover. The mountains had become dangerous lately. Too many wild beasts had killed off the local hunters, and the rest were drafted to fight up at the northern border. That meant the wild animals had multiplied like crazy. Game was everywhere. After crossing a ridge, I spotted a gray rabbit on a hillside looking around. My survival instincts kicked in. A rabbit had grown means a burrow is close by. Looking for the burrow, I circled behind and found the hole. I hid behind a tree, drew my bow and fired the second it reached the entrance, pinned it to the ground. After that, I went on a total rampage. With my hyper-focus, nothing I saw survived. Rabbits, squirrels, birds, everything was fair game. Over the next 2 hours, I fired 20 arrows and filled an entire sack with meat. On my way back, I passed a huge pine tree and stopped. My sack was full of game. Heading back, I stopped at a massive pine tree. Something had carved a deep pit into the trunk, half as tall as a man, with fresh sap oozing out. I crashed down to check the tracks. A massive wild boar, maybe 500 pounds. It was rubbing pine now into its hide for armor against parasites. With that kind of natural coating, even a shotgun would struggle to punch through. If I had run into that thing today with this weak body, I would be dead. I moved fast. By evening, I reached the village. The big elm tree at the entrance was stripped bare. People had eaten the bark and leaves. A group of women sat beneath it, sorting wild vegetables and gossiping. One of them spotted me. Isn't that Li Chan back already? Wong Kai-feng snorted. Probably caught nothing. Marlin laughed too. Real hunters stay out for this. He laughed at me and he's back already. But Liu Jinsui, the chief's wife, squinted at me. She squinted. Wait, he's actually carrying something. Marlin scoffed. She scoffed. If that bum caught anything real, I will feed him my buns right here. Then I got close enough for them to see. 2 fat gray rabbits hang from my shoulder, maybe 7 pounds each. 7 pounds each. My sack was bulging with feathers poking out. Every woman stared. A few of them swallowed hard. I stepped in front of Li Xinsui and pulled out a pine grass. Anisu, thanks for helping my wife when we were gone. Please take this. She panicked. No, it is too valuable. With famine spreading, 3-pound bird like this could save a life. There will be more, I said, and set it down. She picked it up and turned to Marlin with a sly look. I set it down. She picked it up and turned to Marlin. So, Lion, are you going to keep your promise? Marlin's eyes were locked onto my game with pure hunger. She offered to trade her buns for a grass, mocking that I probably could not handle her anyway. The others joined in, teasing they would all trade if I was up for it. I just narrowed my eyes. My eyes went stone cold, the kind of look that makes your blood freeze. If you want it, hand it yourself. My cold glare swept over those women, and they all froze. They could not move or speak, like they had been dunked in ice cold water. By the time they snapped out of it, I was already long gone. That was strange. It felt like my mental power had grown stronger after transmigrating. My gaze alone could actually paralyze people. A little mystical, but I filed it away for later. I rounded the hill path and saw my broken down little house in the distance. Shabby as it was, seeing it brought me comfort. A tiny owl lamp glowed from inside. Even though it was shabby, seeing it brought comfort. A tiny lamp glowed inside. In this chaotic world, home was the only light in the darkness. Qinwen was crouched by the door, chin in her hands, half asleep and nodding off, but still waiting for me. Even while sleeping, her brow was pinched with worry. She sensed me and opened her eyes. "You are back," she cried out. Jumping up. I reached toward her face. She flinched, thinking I was actually going to hit her. I reached for her face and she flinched, thinking I would hit her. "I am sorry, I dozed off," she stammered. I just plucked a tiny feather off her cheek and blew it away. She stammered about dozing off as I blew a feather away. "Let us go inside." She had lit the lamp because the killing at our doorstep had terrified her. I was a luxury people barely use for cooking, let alone lighting. She was terrified I would beat her for wasting it. "It is fine," I said. "Light it whenever you want." I even turned up the wick so the room brightened. She crept over, holding the roasted bird I told her to eat earlier. She had not touched it. She had been waiting for me. I looked at the bird, then dropped 2 fat rabbits off my shoulder. Then I emptied my sack to pine grass, over a dozen birds, and 5 mountain mice. Qingwen knelt on the floor, her eyes glistening. "To that one," I said, pointing to a grass. "Right now." Her eyes went wide with total disbelief. She jumped up to start cooking, then paused and put the roasted bird into my hands. "You must be starving. This first." I tore it in half and handed the rest to her. "You eat too." She grabbed it and ran outside with the grass, stuffing the bird into her mouth. I tied up the rabbits and lowered them into the well to stay fresh. Fresh herb tastes fine but has almost no fat, so it is useless for rebuilding my body. I plan to sell them in town tomorrow for green instead. Rice and flour would last longer and give me the energy to get strong again. I needed to bulk up and fit Qingwen properly before anything else. I needed to verify that everything was working and settle into married life for real. Soon the stew was ready, just a simple boiled grass. But Qingwen had bravely thrown in a few extra grains of coarse salt. I watched her do it. I squeezed shut like she was committing a crime. The salt was rough, bitter, and full of impurities. I remembered how awful it tasted in the morning porch. This air probably had not developed refined salt yet, but even if it existed, only the well-villed could afford it. Something to think about. When the lid came off, the smell of meat filled the room. Qingwen looked like she might cry from pure happiness. She loaded my bowl with both legs, both wings, and big chunks of meat. Then she took a small bowl with just frozen scraps and went to crouch by the doorstep. Women do not eat at the table. That was the rule. I looked at my overflowing bowl, then at her crouched in the corner. "Come sit at the table," I said. "I cannot." She shook her head frantically. "Come here now." She begged, but barely perched on the edge of the stool. "Get over here now," she begged, but barely perched on the edge of the stool. "From now on in this house, men and women eat together. When we have children, it will be the same." She trembled at those words. Her face turned red and her hands shook. Her heart was clearly racing, wondering if tonight was finally the night. "What is wrong with you?" I asked, noticing Qingwen acting strange. "I will do whatever you say," she whispered, burying her face. I had no idea what was going through her head. I just piled chicken legs and wings into her bowl. "You are too thin. You need to eat more." She tried to refuse, but I insisted. She bit into a drumstick and started crying into her soup. "Why are you crying again?" I asked. "I am just so happy," she sobbed. "You are so good to me. We are husband and wife. We should take care of each other." She was so happy she just sobbed, telling me how good I was. I told her we are married and need to look out for each other. I said stop crying and eat, offering another leg. She shook her head and I just raised an eyebrow. She changed her mind fast. "Yes, I want it," she said. The way she sounded right then actually made my heart skip a beat. I really needed to get my strength back. In the glow of the lamp, she looked absolutely stunning. Whatever else that old creep got wrong, he definitely had an eye for women. Finding this gem among thousands of refugees was a miracle. I noticed she even quoted a famous poem earlier after I shot the bird. "You have actually read books?" I asked. She told me her father hired a private tutor for her when she was young. Her family was rich in Liangzhen before the northern barbarians trashed the city. They tried fleeing south, but western raiders blocked them, so they had north instead. One by one, her family died or got captured. By the time she hit the northern pass, she was all by herself. I sighed. In better times, she would be reading poetry in some cozy study. "Your name?" Qingwen is from the Book of Songs, right? I asked. Her eyes lit up. She was shocked I knew that. I mumbled something about school, but honestly, it was just knowledge from my past life. She told me she actually picked the name herself from the classics, replacing her old childhood name. I recited the verse for her. A beauty there is, clear and graceful. We met by chance. How it pleased my heart. She finished the lines without missing a beat, then looked up at me, thrilled her husband actually appreciated poetry. Too bad we do not have any wine, I said. Reciting poems over drinks would be amazing. The heart is our cup and poetry is our wine. She replied softly. Heaven is the husband and earth is the wife, so let's share one big blanket, I teased. Her eyes went wide, and she blushed like crazy. I laughed. In times like this, even a tiny bit of joy was precious. Looking at her in the lamplight, something finally stirred inside me. I stood up, swept her into my arms, and carried her toward the bed. It was time to see if everything actually worked. The lamp is still lit, she gasped, covering her face. Well, I cannot see in the dark, I laughed. What happened next was quite the experience. It turned out everything was working just fine. I did not know that Mao Yan, the bold-faced woman, had snuck into our yard that night. She hoped to steal some meat while we slept, but instead, she peeked over the wall and saw our shadows through the window. She watched for half an hour, frozen in place and biting her lip. At one point, I sensed something outside and looked up. She bolted. I stared into the dark for a second, then shrugged it off and went back to business. Mao Yan went home but could not sleep. She tossed and turned all night. When she finally drifted off, she mumbled in her dreams, Li Chan, how impressive. Meanwhile, Qingwen fell fast asleep. There were still tear marks on her cheeks. I felt a little guilty. Even though I tried being gentle, it was still her first time. I let her rest and headed to the workshop with a lamp. A hunting bow alone just was not enough anymore. I decided to build a crossbow as a backup weapon. In my past life, I had master's degrees in mechanical engineering and chemistry. My parents were scientists killed for refusing to make biological weapons. That's what drove me to become a mercenary. Plus, the original Li Chan's father had beaten woodworking skills into him for 10 years. Between my two lives, making a crossbow was no problem. I worked on a few parts and then went to bed. I would finish it eventually. I woke up at dawn, just like I always do. All mercenary habits die hard. I strapped on some makeshifts and weights and ran 5 kilometers. Round the mountain paths, I found a thick branch for pull-ups, doing 10 sets of 10. Back in the yard, it was 500 push-ups and 100 crunches with a 30-pound rock, then 100 overhead presses. By the end, I was completely spent. My body was still too weak from starving for so long. I could not push harder without risking injury. I needed more nutrition first. Then I would increase the load in a few days. In this brutal world, strength meant survival. Qingwen had breakfast red stir-fried mountain mouse with wild onions, plus 2 stewed birds. She did not want to cook so much, thinking it was wasteful, but I made her. After training, I was starving and devoured most of it. I noticed she finished eating with just half a bowl of broth. I grabbed her bowl, went to the pot, scooped out a full portion of meat, and set it down. I am already full, she started. I told her to eat, but you need it for hunting, she whispered. I just said it. Tears dripped into her bowl again, but she tried to hide them. Somehow, the food mixed with her tears still tasted amazing to her. After eating, color returned to her pale face. She looked almost radiant. I kept myself staring at her for a second. Clean up, we're going to town, I said. I put the rabbits and leftover game from the well where I had them overnight to stay cool. I told Qingwen we would sell the rabbits for green and get some clothes for new clothes. Her eyes went wide with total shock. New clothes were beyond anything she imagined. As we left, she locked the broken door with an old rusty lock and hung the key around her neck, patting it gently. Why bother locking up? I asked. There is nothing worth stealing. It still needs to be locked, she replied softly. Why? She looked down. When it is locked, it is a home. That word hit me hard. I stood there a moment, then softened my voice. Let's go. She followed me with her little basket, taking quick, small steps. As we rounded the hill, I saw a huge crowd by the old elm tree. Over 100 people, mostly women and about 30 men who were either old or disabled. They carried bows and spears. The women were buzzing with energy. If that little troublemaker can handle, so can you. Go early and come back early. I understood immediately. Those gossips from yesterday must have routed every man in town for a hunt. Where are you two off to? Liu Jinsui called out, smiling as we passed the crowd. Beside her stood the chief's daughter, Sushir, who was around King Won's age. She was tall, nearly as tall as me, with sharp features and a body that definitely turned heads. Even with everyone starving, she had curves that no man could ignore. She let her big, clear eyes right on me. I gave her a quick look before looking away. Heading to town to sell some game, I replied. My lack of interest cleared this time, because she bit her lip, looking totally frustrated. Meanwhile, when Kaifeng was staring at my rabbits with pure envy, just wait until our men return. The whole village will be eating meat soon. I ignored the comment, said my goodbyes, and kept moving. King Won clutched my shirt and stayed close. Behind us, the whispering started. Why is she walking like that? Oh, wobbly. Is she just showing off because she had a decent meal? Then Malayan piped up with a nasty grin. Oh, she definitely had meat. The humankind looked like she nearly choked on it, too. Li Chen was on a roll, spilling everything she saw through our window last night. The women went wild. He's an absolute beast. The poor girl. Then Malayan chimed in again. Why don't you go help her then? Share the load. Maybe you're just dying for a turn. They all cackled, their eyes burning with intense curiosity. Watching King Won struggle to walk, they felt a mix of jealousy and awe. A husband who could hunt and stay that activity was something else. Every woman there wished they had it that good. Sushir, still single at 18, just looked on in total confusion. What are you guys talking about? What beast? Liu Jinsui blushed and started pulling her away. You're not married yet, so drop it, she snapped. She scolded them for gossiping about a 19-year-old kid, but Malayan just laughed. He might be young, but parts of him definitely aren't. I couldn't care less. But King Won was turning bright red. She bit her lip, thinking back to last night, and winced at the soreness. Up ahead, two teenagers were heading for the mountains with hunting forks. One of them, 30 kid, saw me and yelled, Brother Chan. It was Xiao Daxi and Liu Xiaobai, my two 70-year-old friends. Even though their parents told them to avoid me, they still treated me like their leader. You're the man, Brother Chan. We could smell that meat cooking all the way from our place, Xiaobai said with admiration. I gave a small smile and warned them, watch out up there. There's a massive armored wild boar roaming around. Its hide is covered in thick pine knot. It's dangerous. The women behind us immediately started talking trash. Oh, trying to scare them now. If there's a boar, why are you coming down? Don't listen, boys. He just wants the mountain to himself. Dashi and Xiaobai had no choice but to head up with the others. I watched them leave with a slight frown but kept my mouth shut. I just turned and kept walking down that trail. That's so unfair, King Won whispered, her face flushed with anger. Life isn't fair, King Won, I said softly. People aren't always rational. Just keep your own conscience clean. She went quiet, thinking about that, and then tripped over a loose stone. I caught her before she took a tumble. She lay in my arms, heart racing not from the near fall, but because I was holding her. Not from the fall, but from the way I held her. Then I felt my whole body tense up, on a small side path to our right. A man in his 30s was strolling toward us with his hands hidden. Shan Guang, King Won whispered, standing up straight. She knew exactly who he was, the older brother of the guy I killed yesterday. She stood there stiff as a board, recognizing him instantly as the brother of the man I had taken out the day before. Ignore him, just keep moving, I muttered. But Shan Guang swaggered over, heavy club tucked into his belt. Well, look at this, Brother Chan taking his woman for a walk. King Won gripped my shirt, her palms sweating. She knew he was tied to the bandits. He circled us like a predator, leering at her. Looks like you've finally tamed her. She's looking better, more like a real woman. He made a disgusting gesture and sniffed the air like a toad. I looked around. There were too many witnesses. I shoved down the earth to kill him. Say your piece or get out of the way. He blocked us, swearing. Since when do you talk to me like that? I looked down at him. He was much shorter and let my eyes go cold. The strange surge of power hit me again. He froze instantly, like he'd been dropped naked into a freezing blizzard. He couldn't even move a single finger. I shoved him out of my path and kept walking. 2 seconds later, the paralysis finally wore off. I pushed right past him and didn't look back. It took a few moments for him to regain his movement. He came charging after us but stopped when I looked back. "Did you see my brother, Jung-ho, yesterday?" he barked, breathing heavily. King Won's hand was shaking against my back. "No," I said coldly. "You're a damn liar," he screamed. I felt her trembling as she held onto me. I told him no, but he just called me a liar. "He went to your place." "Why would he do that?" He struggled to find a reason. "He wanted to visit." "Wanted to visit? You actually believe that?" I walked away with King Won. Behind us, he started yelling about skinning me alive if I touched hair on his brother's head. I didn't turn back, but I mentally added him to my list. Once we were clear, shaking, King Won asked what we'd do if he came looking for trouble. "I'll kill him," I said. We reached the narrow mountain pass that served as the entrance to our village. I checked it out with a soldier's instinct. Cliffs on 3 sides, river on the 4th. One choke point. 30 feet wide, perfect for defense, a nightmare for an attacker. Good terrain. The road to Pingyang County was wide and smooth for 6 miles. We made good time under the morning sun, but as we rounded the last bend before the city, our pace slowed. Spread across a flatland beside the road were hundreds of crude shelters made from branches and grass. Round them sat masses of people in rags, skin stretched over bone, hollow eyes. No energy left. Even the children lay curled in their mothers' arms like wilted plants. Fresh graves dotted the fields behind them. Some still had wet dirt. Refugees driven north by the barbarian invasions. They crossed the northern pass with no papers, no status, nothing. The local order camps outside every town, handing out just enough porridge to keep them barely alive. King Won said nothing, her lips turning white. 2 months ago, she had been one of them. When they spotted us, especially the rebels on my shoulder, every refugee sat up, their clouded eyes lit up with raw anger. They didn't see people anymore, they only saw meat. "Let's move faster," King Won whispered, tugging my sleeve in fear. Some of the stronger ones were already standing, making strange grunts and shuffling toward us. I grabbed my bow, ready to make an example of anyone who charged. But just then, patrol cavalry thundered in. The refugees shrank back in terror. Those soldiers' blades had plenty of refugee blood on them already. "Sit down, you wretches. Anyone moves, we chop you to pieces," the lead soldier barked. We slipped past along the far side of the road. King Won was sweating from the sun or fear, I couldn't tell. Inside the city, things looked almost normal. Shops, street vendors, taverns, even a brother with colored banners. It felt like peacetime, but only because the northern pass still held. I found a restaurant specializing in wild game and sold everything. Business was good with most hunters drafted to the front. The owners were desperate for supply. I got 3 strings of cons for everything. The 2 rebels fetched 1.5 strings, and the 5 large birds another 1.5. King Won was thrilled. She counted the money over and over, tucked it carefully in her basket under her clothes, and hugged it tight. I couldn't help but smile. We bought a wheelbarrow. Then I went on a shopping spree. 2 bags of rough rice, a bag of flour, piles of radishes and cabbage. Then I noticed a salt shop in the stopped. Salt was government-controlled here. Only crude, bitter salt was available to commoners. Refined salt was reserved for the elite and nearly impossible to get. But I knew how to purify salt. If I could produce refined salt easily, I would make a fortune. In this chaotic world, money and green came before power. I bought 5 pounds of coarse salt for 500 coins. As we walked on, I felt it. Someone was tailing us. At a street corner, I glanced back. That same person was tailing us. At a street corner, I glanced back. Shangwei and 2 men were following us. Through the crowd, hatred burning in his eyes. I stayed calm. I bought King Won a cup of cold tea and told her I needed hunting gear. She sat and waited quietly, sneaking 100 coins into a hidden pocket. Not stealing, just worried about my spending habits. Meanwhile, I deliberately led Shangwei into an abandoned courtyard. No windows, no neighbors, no witnesses. I stood there and waited. The 3 of them walked in. Shangwei froze when he saw me standing casually, clearly expecting them. He looked around nervously. Was it a trap? But seeing my skinny frame against his 3 burly men with knives, his confidence returned. "We meet again, Brother Chan," he said with a cold smile. "You've been following me. What do you want?" Where's my brother? What happened to him? His two thugs threw their daggers and closed in. He stole my food and harassed my wife, I said flatly. So I killed him. Shangguan's face twisted with shocking rage. He hadn't actually believed I was capable of murder. He'd just been using his missing brother as an excuse to rob me. But now I confessed it straight to his face. Get him, kill him, avenge my brother. Shangguan screamed, his eyes bloodshot. Bloodshot, his two men lunged at me. I flicked my wrist and sent my short knife spinning into the right one's chest, straight through the heart. He dropped without a sound, the left one rising. But the moment his eyes met mine, the freezing power hit him. He looked up for just a second. That was all I needed. His eyes met mine and the freezing power hit him. He looked up for just a second, all I needed. I drove my knee into his groin and smashed my elbow into his temple. His skull cracked. He was dead before he hit the ground. I kicked up his foreign dagger and charged at Shangguan. He stumbled backward, tripped and landed flat on his back. I stomped on his chest and pinned him down. Brother, it's a misunderstanding. Standing, I'll pay you. Don't kill me. He begged. Too late. Kill me and Black Windford will destroy you. Die. I drove the blade into his heart. Clean. Precise. Instant. I searched all 3 bodies and found 700 coins, several sharp daggers, and a portrait of a beautiful young woman I didn't recognize. I didn't recognize her. It seemed Shangguan had come to town to scout kidnapping targets for the bandits, not specifically to trap me. Either way, it didn't matter. Killing him was the right call. Whether he lived or died, Black Windford would eventually come looking. At least now I bought myself time to prepare. I wasn't worried about the law. These men weren't registered outlaws. If anyone found the bodies, they'd be buried as dead refugees. Nobody would investigate. I stopped at an arrow shop and bought quality arrowheads, bowstrings, and a damaged infantry bow to repair. Then I picked up something else, a pink jacket and blue trousers fetching one for 300 coins. Back at the tea stall, I handed her the bag. She opened it and gasped. This must have been so expensive, 300 coins. She covered her mouth. 300 coins could literally feed a family for a month. When we have more money, I'll buy you silk, I promised. Her eyes turned red. She hugged the package to her chest the entire walk back, picking inside every few minutes with the happiest smile I'd ever seen. It warmed something deep inside me. We passed the refugee camp again on the way back. Kingwon grabbed my sleeve and buried her face, too afraid to look. The patrol soldiers were still around, but they'd just handed out porridge, so nothing happened. Back home, I sat down, totally exhausted. Kingwon wanted to fetch water, but I handed her the new clothes first. Clothes first? Put them on. Let me see. She hesitated because of her chores, but eventually ran inside. Minutes later, she stepped out, fidgeting nervously in the warm noon sunlight like a blooming flower. The pink jacket brought so much color to her face. She was stunning, beautiful, I said. She ducked her head, blushing, but I could see the secret joy in her eyes. She grabbed a walnut thing for me, saying she'd go dig up some wild onions and garlic nearby for cooking. I told her not to wander too far and to stay safe. I noticed her pause at the gate to straighten her new clothes before stepping out with a spring in her step. Once she left, I grabbed a machete and headed to the nearby hills. I chopped firewood and gathered some birch and thin poplar sticks for projects I had in mind. Half an hour later, I made it back. I barely wiped my sweat when I heard scrambling footsteps outside. Kingwon running, crying, clutching her shirt. What happened? Nothing, she said frantically, trying to hide the bottom of her jacket. I put her hands away. The new pink jacket, the one I just bought her, had a long slash cut through it. She dropped to the ground, grabbed the whipping cane, and held it out to me with shaking hands. I'm sorry I ripped it. Please hit me. I took the cane, but I just leaned on it. Who did this? She was too scared to answer, just shaking her head and sobbing. Tell me now. Was it Shuo Jiao? The daughter from the Shuo family had complimented the clothes, then pretended to accidentally cut them with her vegetable knife. Kingwon stared at the ruined fabric and couldn't stop crying. I'll deal with it. I grabbed the cane and headed out. Please don't. Kingwon called after me. It's just girl stuff. You're my wife. Anyone who bothers you answers to me. Aside, the group of women were walking back from gathering wild vegetables. I spotted Shuo Jiao immediately, a stocky girl about Kingwon's age. She saw me coming and tried to run, but I cut her off in 3 strides. The village chief's daughter, Su Xiao, spoke up in her defense. Xiao Feng, you were wrong. You were jealous and cut her clothes on purpose. You should apologize. Several other girls agreed, saying how happy King Wan had been about her new clothes and how Xu Zhao ruined them. But Xu Zhao puffed up defiantly. I already said sorry. What more do you want? A grown man bullying a girl. Have you no shame? I didn't waste 2 words. I brought the king down hard on her leg. Apologize. She screamed and started wailing, calling for everyone to come see a man hitting a woman. Man or woman, you do something wrong and you get punished. I whipped her 3 or 4 more times until she crumpled to the ground. Anyone else who messes with my wife gets the same. Every woman looked on. Sushio stared at me with a complicated expression, part admiration, part jealousy. She'd grown up with the old Li Chan always chasing after her. To her now, he wouldn't even glance her way. Yet he'd fight the whole village for his little servant wife. Then, Xu Zhao's mother, Wen Kaifeng, came charging in. You hate my daughter, I'll kill you. I turned and locked eyes with her. The freezing power hit instantly. She stepped dead, unable to move a muscle. By the time she could move again, King Wan and I were already back inside our yard. She ground her teeth but didn't dare follow. Just wait until your father gets back from hunting, she hissed to her daughter. Back home, I sat down to catch my breath. The test with Wen Kaifeng confirmed it again. Whenever I fix someone with a hard stare, they freeze for a couple of seconds. It's definitely a real ability. King Wan's mood completely turned around. She buzzed about the house, bringing me water and a fan, then knelt down to massage my legs. I'm fine. Really, my legs don't even hurt. I stood up. Come on. I'm going to teach you how to make refined salt. Refined salt. She looked confused. I told her to boil water and dissolve all 5 pounds of coarse salt. After boiling it twice and filtering out the impurities, I poured the brine into a large clay basin. My family tried this back home. King Wan said carefully. It didn't work very well. I'm not done. I smiled. I filled another basin with clean water, scooped a big shovel of wood ash from the stove, and dumped it in. Her eyes went wide. After stirring and letting it settle, I poured the clear liquid straight into the salt water. She nearly screamed, thinking I'd ruined everything. But instead of making the brine dirty, a chemical reaction happened. The impurities clumped together and sank to the bottom, leaving crystal clear salt water on top. I had her stretch a clean cloth over the pot and slowly poured the brine through it. The cloth cut the last of the dark residue. Then I boiled the filtered brine down until only white powder remained. When she came back from washing the cloth, she found me holding a bowl of fine white salt, pure as snow. She pinched a tiny bit and tasted it. Her eyes went huge. This is the best salt I've ever had. Almost as good as what they serve at the imperial court. I tried some too. It was decent enough. The ratio of fat to brine needed work, and there were better purification methods I could try later. But for now, this was good enough to sell. 5 pounds of coarse salt only yielded about 1 pound of refined salt, so I need to price it well. I noticed King was staring at me like I performed a miracle. Listen carefully, I said in a serious tone. This is our family secret. Family secret? We'll make money from this. But never tell anyone. Ever. She nodded solemnly. I told her to keep it quiet and just use the salt for dinner. She whipped up a feast bird stew, steamed rice, and spicy stir-fried cabbage. When she added that new salt, she was so careful, measuring it out like it was worth its weight in gold. While she was busy, I sat outside with some water and caught myself staring. Her back was turned, showing off her curves and that slim waist of hers. She was way more beautiful than I ever realized. I felt a spark inside, stood up and headed toward her. She thought I was just hungry, but I told her to forget the food. I wanted her. I grabbed the spatula, scooped her up and carried her straight inside. She blushed and complained it was only mid-afternoon, but her arms were already locked tight around my neck. Yesterday, she would have been scared stiff. Today, she just closed her eyes and leaned in, looking genuinely happy. We finally ate later on, the sun hitting her glowing face through the window. She looked stunning, and with that fancy salt, the food was next level. King Wan finished her whole bowl and started hiccuping. Just knowing she would have high-quality salt for the rest of her life almost moved her to tears of joy. After dinner, she started fixing my torn jacket while I headed to the workshop. I had serious prep work to do. I started by sharpening over a dozen wooden sticks into deadly double-sided spears. After that, I built 2 simple crossbow launchers using birch and jujube wood, along with some of my father's old bowstrings and the custom parts I'd been working on. They looked rough, but thanks to my modern knowledge, they could pierce a person at 20 paces. Then I went out and dug 3 pit traps around the yard, filled with those sharp sticks. I told Shingguan they were for mountain animals, but the truth was different. Killing Zhongguan was going to bring those black-green bandits eventually, and I had to be ready for them. I placed the pits strategically so that anyone jumping over our wall would land and right in a trap. Inside, I rigged the 2 mini crossbows to the door and window using hidden trip wires. Anyone trying to break in would take a bolt to the chest. Now, it was time for the real project. I grabbed the damaged northern barbarian warbow I had picked up. It was a short recurve design, but super powerful, hitting targets 60 paces out. Way better than my standard hunting bow. I fixed the damage and spent all night turning it into a compound pulley crossbow. I even added 2 eccentric wheels and secondary strings. The pulleys made it a breeze to draw. I could do it one-handed. The range shot up to over 100 paces with absolutely devastating power. It was lethal. I even added a 10-shell magazine with a bamboo spring auto feed. Every time I cut it, the next bolt just popped right into place. A semi-automatic weapon centuries ahead of its time. Combined with my sniper focus, this crossbow made me untouchable within 100 paces. I could go head-to-head with a tiger or even a massive bear now. The next morning, I picked both weapons, the compound crossbow wrapping claws and my trusty hunting bow on my shoulder. I told Xingguan to stay with people and sleep at any source if I was not back by dark. Down at the village entrance, Liu Jinsi gave me a warm welcome. Liu suggested I join the local hunters since they had found some small boars and I could share the meat. But Wang Kaifeng and her daughter, Xu Zhao, immediately shut that down. Share the meat. Wang Kaifeng and her daughter, Xu Zhao, hated that idea. Why should he get a share? Let him hunt for himself. Zoe Zhao even threatened to have her dad beat me up when he got back. I just ignored them and headed up the hill. But I could not help worrying about those villagers. Their basic weapons were fine for piglets, but that armor boar I had seen signs of would slaughter them. 15 minutes later, I heard it crashing trees and the terrifying, furious screams of a massive hog. Run! It is a huge boar. Someone screamed as I rushed toward the chaos. Through the dust, I saw people sprinting out of the trees 100 paces ahead, with pure terror on their faces. Someone had dropped a net with 2 little piglets inside. They had snatched the babies and lured the mother at that armored beast. They did not listen to my warning. Now look, I muttered. I warned them, and now this happens. Behind the villagers, heavy teeth bits thundered like war drums. People were screaming. I ripped the cover off my new crossbow, loaded a bolt, and took aim. A massive boar burst out of the trees, smashing through branches like they were nothing. It was huge, with thick pine nail armor, red eyes, and razor-sharp tusks. This was the monster I was afraid of. Right in his path, a skinny kid was running for his life. I knew him as Qiu Shaobai, my old childhood friend. Shaobai hit the dirt. I roared. He dropped just as the boar lowered its head to gore him. That gave me the perfect shot. I went into that instant focus state, 100 paces away. The boar's forehead filled my vision like it was right in my face. I squeezed the trigger. The bolt flew in a blink, punching straight into the boar's skull. The beast shrieked, veered off, carved a trench in the dirt, and finally collapsed. I reloaded and moved in. Shaobai, you okay? I am fine. He stammered, shaking on the ground. Xiao Dashi rushed over to help him, but I yelled at him to stay back because it might not be dead. But an elder named Zhou charged in, limping and cursing at the boar. He tried to stab it in the neck with a hunting fork. Big mistake. The boar surged back to life, swinging its tusks at his chest. One more inch and he would have been impaled. I fired again. The bolt went through its right eye and at the other side, dropping it for good. Joe opened his eyes and saw the arrow in the skull. He looked at me and tried to kneel, but I cut him. We are neighbors, I told him. Helping each other is just what we do. The villagers gathered around, still shaking. They had seen it all, 2 shots from nearly 200 paces right through the head. They're calling me an arrow god. Xiaobai said I'm even better than the army's legendary marksman. If Li Chan hadn't stepped in, we'd all be dead right now, he sobbed. Just like that, I went from village troublemaker to hometown hero. Everyone crowded around, clapping my back and praising me. Chief Sejong took over. He organized the wounded and announced the boar was mine. I killed it, so it was my property. He asked if anyone had a problem with that. No way. They shouted, he saved our lives, but I said, hold on, I don't agree. Silence hit the crowd as they stared at me. Li Chan, what do you mean? The chief asked. This boar belongs to the whole village, I told him. You guys are the ones who flashed it out. I was just in the right place at the right time. Chief Sejong shook his head. Don't be modest. We saw those shots, 180 paces, one through the forehead, one through the eye. That wasn't luck. We were the first who grabbed those piglets and brought that mother down on ourselves. You could have taken this boar alone. It's yours. The villagers all shouted in agreement. Nobody was going to claim my kill. Since they insisted, I accepted. But only so I could handle it my way. Fine. It's mine, and I'm giving it to the village. Divided by household. All I want are the bones. Dead silence. This boar would have sold for 40 or 50 strings of coins in town. I was giving it away for free and only keeping the bones. Sejong's eyes started to water. He turned to the crowd. You know what kind of year we've had? Drought, famine, and war. How long has it been since you tasted meat? Li Chan gives us this boar and only asks for bones. If anyone disrespects him, they answer to me. Zhou Dehai, the man I saved, backed him up first. Everyone else followed. Before leaving, I put Sejong aside. Uncle Su, listen. Uncle Su, I'm almost 20. If people hear about my archery skills, they'll drive me to the northern front to fight. Please, I can't let that happen. Tell everyone it was just a lucky blind shot. He laughed, patted my shoulder, and told the crowd. The villagers played along immediately, joking about my bad luck. They understood why I needed them to keep quiet. I put my chores from the bar and headed back up the mountain. Down below, the village women were waiting. When they saw the man hauling the massive bar down the hill, everyone went wild. It's huge. Must be 500 pounds. When Kaifeng shouted, she violated her lips, thinking about dinner. But when Kaifeng had other business on her mind, she grabbed her husband, Zhou Dehai, and told him Li Chan beat their daughter with a cane. She demanded he settle the score. Why would he do that? Zhou Dehai frowned. He's not that kind of guy. Su Xiu spoke up, explaining that she will deliberately ruin Qi new clothes and wouldn't apologize. Is that true? Zhou Dehai's face went dark. That day, I didn't mean it. But he still hit me. You have to beat him up. Shu Will whined, clinging to his arm. A massive slap knocked her to the ground. You have the nerve to ask me to fight Li Chan. Zhou Dehai roared, grabbing a branch and whipping her. That man just saved my life. He killed the boar while you're out here doing petty, shameful things. When Kaifeng tried to stop him, but he shoved her aside. He kept cursing and beating her until her wheels echoed down the mountain road. I had no idea what was happening in the village. I headed deeper into the mountains, but today's hunting was strangely bad. Besides a dozen birds and 5 wild chickens, I barely found a thing. No rabbits, no ground game, nothing. It was like the animals vanished overnight. Then I heard it. A deep, short tiger roared that cut off abruptly, like something had clamped its throat shut. That explained the missing game. A tiger had moved into the territory. I had my crossbow, but I wasn't looking for a fight. Tigers are pure muscle, incredibly strong, and can take a massive beating. I started heading back down, but then came another roar. It was followed by a high-pitched shriek like a giant cat screaming. A leopard. The sounds were close, maybe towards 300 paces. I heard heavy fighting and decided to risk a look. If the predators were tearing each other apart, maybe I could pick up the scraps. I crept through the dense forest, crossbow ready. I pushed through the branches and saw it. A huge black leopard had its jaws locked around a golden tiger's throat. The tiger kicked, convulsed, and went still. The leopard won, which should have been impossible, but looking closer, I finally understood. The tiger was emaciated, covered in festering wounds, with fur falling off in patches. Its tongue was black, poison, probably a venomous snake bite that never healed up. Weakened by toxin and injuries, it couldn't fight off the leopard. The predator sensed me and looked up, eyes blazing. It released the tiger and launched itself at me. 2 enormous leaps covered 30 feet. Then a third brought it within 5 meters. close out, murder was in its green eyes. I didn't flinch. I looked straight at it and unleashed my mental pressure. The leopard seized up midair, frozen for just a fraction of a second. That was enough. I fired. The bolt punched through its throat and down the back of its neck. It crashed to the ground, thrashing. I walked up and put a second bolt through its skull. My intimidation power worked unanimous, too. Good to know. Then I heard a strange quaking sound from a nearby bush. I grabbed my hunting bow and crept over, expecting a bird. Instead, I found a newborn tiger cub. Its eyes were still sealed shut, crawling blindly and mewing like a duck. Now it all made sense. Eyes still sealed shut, crawling blindly and mewing like a duck. Now everything finally made sense. The dead tiger was a mother who just gave birth. Poisoned, wounded, and exhausted, she was ambushed by the leopard. It was probably one she'd driven off before coming back for revenge or territory. I grabbed the little cub's strong, heavy male. He licked my fingers. All right, little guy, you're coming home. I cleaned him up, tucked him in a bag against my chest, and built a drug sled for the leopard. The leopard alone was worth 60 strings of coins, but I wasn't selling. Dragging a massive cat root on would draw it too much attention from the wrong people. Better to eat the meat. Boil the bones for soup and make chingwana for cloak. As for the tiger carcass, I just left it behind. Its poisoned flesh and ruined hide were worthless anyway. I dragged the leopard back toward the village as the sun began to set. Every house had its lamps lit, and the smell of roasting pork filled the air. My wild boar was feeding every family. It felt like a festival. My stomach growled. But as I got closer to home, I saw a crowd at my gate. Someone was kneeling, and I could hear angry shouting. At the gate, I found Xiu Zhao kneeling with a slab of meat on her head, crying. Her father, Xiu Dehai, stood over her, whipping her with a switch. You'll stay there until Li Chan forgives you, he barked. Wen Kai fenced to the nearby weeping, but too scared to help. Qin Wan was at the door, trying to get him to stop, but he wouldn't budge. I had to admit, Dehai had real character. When people spotted me, they ran over. Then they saw what I was dragging. The screaming started. A leopard. It's a leopard. My young followers, Dashi, Shaobai, the looking sheets, stared at me like I was some kind of god. Brother Chan, you killed a leopard. Dashi's voice was shaking. I just nodded. No point in hiding it. If word spread that I was the leopard killer, troublemakers would think twice before messing with me. The villagers looked at me with pure and fear. People had heard of Tiger Kiss, but nobody had ever seen someone take down a leopard. They're faster and way craftier than tigers. Xiu Dehai rushed over, handed me his switch, and begged me to be his daughter. His eyes were bloodshot. You saved my life and my family repaid you with insults. I can't live with that. Hit her as hard as you want. I had no choice but to take the switch and walk over to her. Xiu Zhao was trembling with her eyes squeezed shut. Brother Chan, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for how I treated Qin Wan. Help me and please take this meat. Dad says we don't deserve it. Qin Wan was crying beside her. Soft-hearted as always, I raised the switch high. When Kai Feng turned away, unable to watch, Xiu Zhao clenched her teeth, waiting for the blow. I brought it down and just lightly tapped her back. I tossed the switch away and gave Xiu Dehai a smile. It's done. She's forgiven. I put Xiu Zhao up and brushed the dust off her clothes. We're all neighbors, just be good to Qin Wan from now on. She tried to shove the meat into my hands. I saw her swallow hard as she held it out. She wanted the pork badly. Keep it. We've got plenty, I said, gesturing at the leopard and my game. Keep it. We have more than enough, I said, pointing at the leopard and my heavy bag of game. Xiu Dehai limped over, eyes glistening. When Kai Feng tried to stuff the meat into my arms, apologizing over and over, I refused again. We were all village people. Sometimes teeth bump against the tongue. It happens. It's fine. Go home and enjoy your dinner. Xiu Dehai gave me a thumbs up. You're a real man, Li Chan. I won't forget this. All three bowed deeply and hurried home. Then Xiaobai came over shyly, carrying a bundle of about 20 arrow shafts on his back. Brother Chan, my mom says I owe you my life. I don't have much, but I made these arrows to sell in town. They're yours now. I hope they're good enough. I picked one up and examined it. Impressive work. Birchwood, perfectly straight, and properly dried with expert goose feather fetching. His father had been a master carpenter and Xiaobai had already surpassed him. Even my father once said he became the best craftsman in the village. Instead of just taking them, I put out a bag of iron arrowheads I'd bought. Xiaobai, I need someone to attach this to the shafts. Help me make some real arrows, consider it a favor. His face lit up, happy to finally have a way to repay me. Then Dashi stepped forward with a knife his blacksmith father had spent 6 months forging. That says a hunter needs a real blade. I flicked the steel. The ring was dull mediocre quality, but the thought behind the gift was what really mattered. The knives I'd taken from Shan Wang's men were even worse. This year's metal working was clearly behind. If I found the time, I could probably forge something better myself. Look and see. The bookish one shuffled up, blushing and clutching a few old books. I don't have anything valuable, just this. His father had been a scholar who died before passing his imperial exams. Kenshi was one of the only literate boys in the village, but too poor to study. He lived alone with his sister. Books are the greatest treasure there is, I said, taking them with a smile. He looked relieved. He knew I was being kind. Xiaobai crushed by my crossbow, touching it in awe. How is this so powerful? I explained the pulley system to Wiz that reduced weight while boosting range. Dashi fidgeted nervously. Brother Chan, can we ask you something? All three stared at me with desperate hope in their eyes. We want you to teach us hunting, fighting, everything. We want to be your students. They offered to swear oaths and serve me. I considered it. A few capable followers would be valuable. Money, food, and loyal brothers. That's how you build something real in this world. You really want to learn? Of course, Dashi blurted. We can hunt for our families, and the girls will finally notice us. Brother Chan, you should hear the women talking about you. They all want to marry you. Kenshi smacked him and glanced nervously at Qingyuan. Sorry, no filter. I left it off. Tomorrow morning, after the third rooster crow, meet me at my gate. I'll train you. They tried to kneel in the formal ceremony, but I stepped aside and refused. Look, we are brothers, not master and student. Just train hard and always think of me as your brother, Chan. That is plenty. You were the first to get it. You will always be our brother. The others agreed and swore loyalty. Then Shu, the calmest one, noticed it was getting late and sent them home. Once they left, I checked the yard. Thankfully, nobody fell into my pit traps. I reminded myself to flatten the sticks during the day and set them back up every night. Husband, Qingyuan called out, are you hungry? Dinner is ready, she said while setting the table for us. She had heard it all, the bar, the leopard, the whole village cheering. Before she could speak, I put a fuzzy bundle in her arms. For you, a kitten, she asked, happy. A tiger cub, what? She almost dropped it. I caught the little guy just in time. I explained he was a newborn with his eyes still squeezed shut. When he opens his eyes, whoever he sees first becomes his parent. She poked his belly. The cub squirmed, making a quack sound. Why does it sound like a duck? She almost laughed. They all do that when they are small, I said. Wait until he grows up. I told her everything: the poisoned mother, the leopard fight, the kill. When she heard the mom died, her eyes welled up. I knew she was thinking about the family she lost. I patted her arm gently to comfort her. Her eyes stayed red. I knew she was mourning her own family. I patted her arm. Do not dwell on the past or worry about the future. Just remember, you will always have someone by your side. She hugged me tight, holding the cub while sobbing against my chest. She was not afraid of me anymore. I laid out the whole 5 wild chickens, over 30 birds, and the leopard. I decided we would not be selling the leopard. It is too much attention. We will eat the meat, and I will tan the hide for a winter coat. You do not like it? I asked as she teared up. No, you are just too good to me, she cried. Later, I found a nursing dog and treated 2 chickens for it to feed the tiger cub. The family was thrilled. Those chickens could buy grain for days. That night, after setting up the indoor defenses, we finally went to bed. Qingyuan had already fallen in love with the cub, clutching it like a stuffed animal. But when I lay down, she took him into his nest and slipped under my blanket. She put him in the nest and slipped under my blanket. If you are tired, I can take care of you, she whispered. Her breath was warm against my ear. She was getting bolder. I smiled in the dark. The next morning, I woke up fresh. Qingyuan's legs were a bit wobbly, but her face was glowing with a new spark in her eyes. At dawn, Dashi, Xiaobai, and Qinshu showed up as promised. They found us boiling crushed pig bones into a thick, rich broth for breakfast. We were boiling crushed pig bones into thick, rich broth together. Brother Qin, why are you cooking bones? Don't you have any meat? I can bring some over, Dashi blurted out. Bone broth builds strength, I said. You will each drink a bowl when we get back. Then, I strapped on my sandwiches. Let's go. We start with a 10-mile run up the mountain. Without endurance, nothing else matters. Then, 10 sets of 10 pull-ups. This is just my normal daily routine. They had no idea this was not hunter training. It was basic special forces conditioning from my past life. After nearly 2 hours of training, I was impressed. These boys had serious potential, maybe from climbing mountains daily or just natural talent. The mountain paths were brutal, but they finished everything. The 10-mile run, 100 pull-ups, 500 push-ups. Even skinny Xingshu pushed through every single representative. His willpower was remarkable. The weight separated them. Though, Xingshu and Xiaobai could not handle the heaviest stones and needed 10 pounds less. But they still finished before collapsing on the ground. Dashi, though, the kid was a total monster. He complained the 50-pound stone was too light and swapped it for an 80-pounder. He could probably handle 100. I always knew he was throwing. But this was something else. Next, I had them try out the crossbow. 20 pieces. 3 arrows each. Xiaobai had the bullseye with all 3 of his shots. First time shooting at 40 paces. And he still hit it every time. At 50, he drifted but still landed 2. In my old mercenary unit, he would have been put straight into sniper training. Qingshui was solid, hitting every target at 20 paces. He was above average, Dashi could not hit anything, and the other 2 laughed at him mercilessly. Brother Chan, this is impossible. Teach me something else. He begged, his face turning bright red. Don't rush it. Basics first. Now come on. Let's see. Their jaws absolutely dropped. I was training them and feeding them. In times like this, feeding growing boys was no small thing. Qinwan served steaming bowls of rice with thick bone broth and pickled radish. They like they had never seen food. Qingshu suddenly paused mid-bite. Brother Chan, what kind of salt is this? There is no bitterness at all. I refined it myself, I said. They stared at me like I had grown a second head. Hunting, fighting, killing leopards, and now salt making. I told them my plan. Sell the refined salt to the city shop and hire them to help. Work when there is work, and when not, forget farming. They tried to pay me, but I just waved it off. We'll settle the bill later on down the line. Just then, Xinguang walked in with the tiger cub. They thought it was a kitten until I set them straight. Their jaws hit the floor. I explained how I found it, and they all swarmed around the cub and the dead leopard in the yard. A boar, a leopard, and a pet tiger. Dashi was practically vibrating. When this thing grows up and you walk it through town, people will pass out. After dinner, I asked if they still had energy. Are we going hunting? Qingshu asked, his eyes lighting up. Qingshu asked with that look, sharp kid. He had the instincts of a commander, always reading the situation. Fine. But you follow my orders exactly. Don't spook the game. All 3 were buzzing with pure excitement. I gave the crossbow to Xiaobai, the knife to Qingshui, the loaded dashi with ropes, the spear, and the tools. We headed into the mountains, with the big predators dead. The local wildlife had finally returned to the forest. Along the way, I gave the boys a masterclass in marksmanship. Anything that moved flying or running, I nailed it with my hunting bow. My hunting bow never missed once, but when they tried, totally different story. Xiaobai barely managed 1 rabbit out of 5 shots. Qingshu missed everything and spent forever looking for his arrows. Dashi just got frustrated and gave up on the spot. We pushed deep into the mountains, eating steam buns as we went. Dashi earned his key by hacking a trail through the thick brush. Then I heard it. I raised my fist, and they all dropped flat immediately, exactly like I had told them to. We crawled through the brush and saw a clearing with over a dozen deer grazing peacefully. If we bag a few big ones, we'll reach, Dashi whispered. 5 or 6 easy, Xiaobai whispered. No, I told them quietly. We're taking every single one. Alive, they thought I was nuts. I turned to Qingshui and asked how he would capture the whole herd. He studied the terrain. Mountain wall on the left, open on 3 sides. He suggested spooking the herd south while Xiaobai and I waited in ambush to catch them. Surround 3 sides and leave 1 open. Good tactics, I said. But I want them alive. Then I laid out my real plan. They listened with wide eyes. barely believing it would work. We split up and the boys burst out screaming to panic the herd. The deer bolted south, led by a massive stag, straight into the tree lines I had set. The big stag went on hard and fast. 3 largest crushed right behind it, and then 4 or 5 more piled up on top of them in the chaos. A few dodged sideways, but they ran right past my hiding spot. I stood up and fired a bolt through the deer's hind leg. 6 arrows in rapid succession, each one piercing a leg, dropped them all. Dashi was already charging in to tie up the dazed stag's legs with heavy rope. His strength made it a one-man job. Then he moved right on to the next one. The others arrived to help, but 2 injured deer scrambled to their feet and tried to bolt. I reloaded fast, 2 quick shots, and 2 more deer were down. Brother Chan, you're incredible, they screamed, pumping their fists in the air. Every single deer captured alive. If we breed them at home, we'll have enough food to last for several generations to come. We got them all tied up. I gave the orders to pull the arrows, bandage the wounds, and get them on the paws. We roped the healthy ones together in a long line. Dashi led the big stag at the front and the others followed behind. The stag tried to resist, but Dashi punched it until it forgot what rebellion even meant. After that, it followed wherever he put. By late afternoon, we finally made our way out of the mountains with our haul. The village went crazy. 13 deer and all of them alive. Is Li Chan a mountain god? If he breeds this, the herd will double in 2 years. Many even started fighting over whose daughter I should marry. They were arguing about who gets to be my wife or concubine just for the meat. It got heated, and people had to intervene. Dashi and the boys walked with their heads held high. For these teenagers, this was easily the proudest moment of their entire lives. Xinwan was 10. Yesterday it was a boar, a leopard, and a tiger cub. Today, it's an entire deer herd. She's probably wondering if I'll bring home a dragon tomorrow. No hunting tomorrow. We need to build a deer pen under the cliff. We split the smaller game across 4 rabbits and about 20 birds. I offered each boy a grouse and a rabbit, but they refused to take the birds no matter how much I insisted. I even offered them each a deer, but they wanted to keep the herd together for breeding. I knew they were just being modest. Xinwen cooked up a grouse stew with rice. The boys ate so much they were practically dripping with sweat by the end. We herded the deer behind the house and tied them up with fresh grass and water. By the time we finished, it was dark. Xinwen came over holding the tiger cub looking annoyed. He peed all over my clothes. Can I smack him? She's changed so much lately, braver, more playful. She could tell that I was actually being kind to her now. Just discipline him when he's bad, he'll learn. She reached out and gave the cub's forehead a gentle little flick. Bad boy, little boy. The cub grunted back and patted his head. She started cracking up. Watching this cute moment, I felt a spark of warmth inside. Then I looked over at Xinwen, and my expression hardened. She knew exactly what was on my mind. She looked down, blushing, and toyed with the cub. I headed out to set the perimeter traps. Once back inside, I looked up, killed the light, and swept her off her feet. We eventually drifted off, but not for long. An hour later, my internal alarm went haywire. That old soldier instinct was screaming that something was wrong. Mid sleep, that mercenary gut feeling kicked in. My mind was shouting one word: danger. I woke up instantly. From down the mountain, I heard the faint trot of horses, then nothing. But that feeling of being hunted stayed with me. The dread intensified. I sat up fast, waking Xinwen. Go ahead, I told her. Enemies are coming. It is a night raid. Take the cub to the cellar and lock it. Stay put until I come for you. She grabbed the cub and scrambled for safety. I grabbed my bow, knife, and crossbow, then jumped the wall. I hid in the grass 30 paces out. Below, I saw a group of men getting off their horses. One horse carried a woman in pink, bound to its back. The men wore black masks, their eyes reflecting the pale moonlight. I kept it of their conversation. They knew Chen Guin was dead. Their second in command was Herr himself, laughing me off as just some random, harmless farmer. He left one guy with the horses and the girl leading it others up the hill with swords out. My enhanced night vision was incredibly sharp, letting me see everything clearly even 60 paces out in the dark. I watched those shadows crawl toward my yard. Standing perfectly still, I went with my hunting bow. The crossbow was too slow for this. My dog caught their scent and started barking. Damn, a dog, move it. the leader hissed. 5 of them helped the side walls, while 3 stormed the front gate. 3, 2, 1. 3 screams ripped through the air at once. The guys who jumped the walls landed right in my pit traps, impaled on spikes. I stood up and let 3 arrows fly, just like that. The 3 men at the gate collapsed with arrows through their chests. 1 guy missed the pits and tried to climb back over the wall. My dog lunged, biting his leg and slowing him down just enough. He cleared the wall, but I was already 10 paces ahead of him. A single crossbow bolt pinned his thigh to the wood. He slid right onto his own sword. It went through his neck, killing him instantly. I cursed. I really needed to interrogate that guy. The last bandit panicked and bolted into the house. He tripped my indoor trap and took a bolt to the chest. Game over. A man, or dead, not a single survivor left to tell me anything. I did a quick body count. The guys in the pits were skewered, and the rest took arrows to the heart. I figured they were Black Rhine Fort bandits out for revenge, but I couldn't be sure. Then, I remembered the horses. The horses, someone had to be watching them down there. I masked my face, grabbed my gear, melted into the night, and vanished into the dark. 15 minutes later, I found a grove near the village. 5 horses were waiting there. My eyes widened. Horses were worth a fortune in this empire. The army was desperate for cavalry but couldn't breed enough mounts. Even with civilians raising them, the supply was always way too low. These bandits basically just had delivered 5 horses to me. I saw the woman in pink still tied to one of them. Strangely, there wasn't a guard in sight. That felt off. Why leave horses and a prisoner totally alone like that? I waited in the tall grass, watching. Still nobody. I decided it was time to move. I crept closer, crossbow ready. The girl tied to the horse was young and beautiful, gagged and struggling, kicking her legs in pure panic. Look, I'm not a bandit. I'm going to free you. But keep quiet. What happened? Are there more? As soon as I cut the gap, she screamed. Behind you. Watch out. My instincts flared. I spun around and fired. A bandit nearby dropped with a bolt in his chest. He had a sword in one hand and was holding up his pants with the other. He had been peeing in the woods and missed me completely. Just my luck that I missed him. There goes my chance at taking a prisoner alive. I finished cutting her ropes. She gave a graceful bow. My name is Jung-Yor. I will never forget what you did for me. She hesitated on her name, though. Her eyes were way too sharp for a simple kidnap victim. She was lying through her teeth and doing a good job, but not good enough to fool me. Years of reading people in life or death paths made her transparent. When I asked where she lived, she had a polished story about fleeing Langjing for Pingyang County, running from Langjing all the way to Pingyang. Too smooth, it felt rehearsed, not real. Who took you? Why? She played dumb. I was done wasting my time. Fine, goodbye. I turned to grab the horses, and she panicked. Wait, look, it's late. I can get back to the city alone. Escort me and I'll pay you well. No thanks, I said, mounting up and riding off. She hugged her skirt and ran after me only to face plant in the grass. She sat up, spitting out leaves and glaring at me with pure, humiliated rage. You're incredibly rude. I'm a helpless woman alone at night, and you won't even help me. You didn't even come help me up after I fell. I stopped my horse. I saved your life and you lied to my face about everything. Why should I help you more? She snapped back immediately. Maybe I was with the bandits. Maybe it was a setup. How could she trust some masked stranger in the woods? She was sharp and talkative, watching me closely with those observant eyes, trying to figure me out. I rubbed my temples. Fine. Leaving her here was a risk. She might follow me home and blow my cover. Better to just drop her off in the city and be finished with it. I tied the spare horses to a tree and led one over. Get on, I am taking you back. She looked relieved, but she could not climb up to save her life. After the third fail, I gave her a boost. She turned bright red the moment I tied her. While we traveled, I set the rules. I did not want anyone knowing who I am or where I am from. If people ask, say the bandits were ambushed by a third party. They scattered, and you escaped during the chaos. Then you just happened to run into me on the road. Understood? Fine. Fine. Shang-Yu agreed to the deal. Then she bit her lip nervously. But at least let me see your face. You saved me. I want to remember you, unless you're a coward. You must be ugly. That is why you are hiding. I grabbed her collar like I was going to dump her off the horse. She immediately pulled back against his neck, like I was going to toss her off the horse. She immediately pressed herself flat against the animal's neck. Okay, I will not look, I will shut up. Then I saw torchlight. About 20 people on horses and on foot were heading our way. Looks like your rescue party, I said. When she saw them, her eyes turned cold and focused. She was a completely different person from the annoying, chatty girl I had been dealing with. They surrounded us. A man in front drew his blade and yelled and had my knees, you bandit. But I saw it in his eyes. It was not just anger. There was suspicion and even hate toward her. Something was wrong with this second uncle. Second uncle, stop. He's my savior. Shang-Yue snapped at him. The uncle's face showed a flash of shock and frustration before he forced a fake smile. Of course, as long as you are safe, dear niece. I set her down, gave a quick salute, and rode off without looking back. But I did not actually leave the area. I circled back through the dark and hid in the tall grass to watch. What I saw confirmed my gut feeling. Qingyue suddenly mounted a horse with perfect ease. She was nothing like the clumsy girl who could not climb up earlier. It was all an act. She confronted her uncle. Her voice like ice. You were really worried about me, dear uncle. He started crying theatrically about how scared he was, rambling about not being able to manage the business or the accounts without her. She cut him off with a cold snort. How thoughtful of you. Sarcasm dripped from every word. Neither of them was simple. The uncle obviously had a grudge, and Johnny was way sharper and more dangerous than she uttered with me. I put out the portrait I took from Jianwen's body. The woman in the drawing was definitely Jianyue. It was definitely Shang-Yue. The Black Wind bandits had been hired to kidnap her specifically. Shang Guan had been scouting her in town that day. Not following me. Killing him just delayed their plan. I tore the portrait to shreds and let the wind take it. Whatever was happening between Shang-Yue and her uncle was not my problem. If anyone came looking for me over this, they would regret it. Back home, I cleaned up the bodies and the blood under the moonlight. I kept the weapons and the 50 taels of silver I found. 40 came from the leader. I knocked on the cellar door with our signal. Qinwen was sitting there, obediently holding the tiger cub in one arm and a small bag of coins in the other. I could not help but smile, even while hiding from killers. She made sure to grab the money first. Qinwen burst into tears with relief. She had heard the fighting and screaming from the cellar and was terrified the whole time. I kept it brief. I killed Jiang Guan in town 2 days ago. Tonight, Black Wind force and bandits for revenge. I killed them all. She went totally white. But I promised her they would not be coming back anytime soon. We collapsed into bed, totally exhausted. In the middle of the night, Shen-Wan sat straight up, crying and waving her arms. Let go of my husband. Sitting up, crying and waving her arms. Let my husband go. Let him go. I held her and patted her back until she woke up. She dreamed the bandits had captured me. I told her dreams mean the opposite. But privately, I made a choice. I had to wipe out Black Wind for completely. Living in fear was not an option. The next morning, I stepped outside and froze. Over 50 kids were crowded at my gate. Every teenager in the village was there. They heard about my training and wanted in. Too many. Go home, I said. Their faces fell. But I walked past them with my 3 brothers. When Dash asked why I turned them away, I explained that intense training requires real food. Without enough food, these wickeds would just get hurt, not stronger. I knew Brother Qin was not being selfish. Dashi grinned. Training went well. I estimated I had recovered about half my old strength. At this pace, I will be back to 80% in 6 months. Over breakfast, I casually asked how they slept, checking if anyone heard the fight. Best sleep of my life, Dashi said, mouth full of chicken and lice. He hit the bed and was a cold. The others agreed. I relaxed. I tried teaching them some knife fighting after the meal. But the blade snapped. The steel in this area was terrible, either too brittle or too soft. It made me want to forge my own weapons with a proper furnace and bricks. Not simple, still. The idea stuck. I would look for materials and some skilled people in town. Later, I took some blood from the bed stack without hurting it and shared it with everyone, including Qinwen. Fresh blood strengthens your bones. Drink up. Nobody liked the taste. Qinwen's face scrunched up with every single sip. But nobody dared to refuse. Then Xiaobai brought over a bag, looking sheepish. Brother Qin, can you teach me to build your crossbow? I tried copying it these past 2 nights. He opened the bed. Inside was a nearly perfect replica. Every single component was there. My jaw hit the floor. He had only seen my crossbow a few times. Yet he recreated every single piece just from memory. The only issue was he didn't grasp the free string calibration system, and his 2 eccentric wheels were totally mismatched. Since they were uneven, it would never shoot straight. But the fact that he got this far just by looking was incredible. The level of instinct and skill was 1 in 10,000. I decided not to tell Xiaobai what was wrong with his project just yet. I wanted to see how loyal my brother really was before I started handing over all my engineering secrets. I will teach you when we have more time, I said. I gave everyone their orders. Xiaobai helped King Wan tan the leopard skin while Darcy and King Shu helped me build the deer pin. I also told King Shu to bring his 12-year-old sister, Chani, over to help out in the kitchen. The kid was sharp enough to know I was just giving her a chance to eat decent meals. His eyes filled with tears of gratitude. We started mixing grass into mud to build those dry stack walls. Before long, Village Chief Suzhang showed up with Zhou Dahai and the crew. He had even gone to town to get me an official hunter license and badge. Now I could legally buy weapons and hunt in the open. I hadn't even considered that. Just the 4 of you building this. You will be here until next year. Come on, boys. Let's pitching. Suzhang said. Then something could happen and every villager passing by to the fields dropped their 2 cents. Started helping out. Within a few hours, almost every man in the village was working. By late morning, we had a massive deer pen big enough for dozens of animals. I invited everyone to stay for a feast. We had 2 stewed grass, a pot of fish, veggies with plenty of meat, and 2 big jars of wine. Some of these guys hadn't tasted meat or alcohol in 2 years. A few looked ready to cry. Little Chani was a total natural, only 12, but an expert cook and super sweet. She called King Wan's sister so easily it melted her heart. King Wan even shared her prize osmanthus candy with the girl. Liu Jin, Su Mei, and Su Shu came to help, and even when Kai Feng and Xiao Zhao showed up, refusing to let King Wan do any of the heavy lifting. Ma Yan arrived too, bringing fresh fruit for King Wan. Then Ma Yan spotted the red marks on King Wan's neck. What happened? How did you get those bruises? King Wan turned scarlet. I just bumped into a table corner, and you keep bumping into it every night. We can hear you crying out from all the way at my house. Poor little King Wan. The women started laughing. King Wan kept insisting it was just a table corner that happened to hit the same spot every single night. Bro, Ma Yan said with a straight face. How about I sleep at your house tonight and let the table corner hit me instead? I am tougher. I won't even cry. You just want to get bumped yourself. Admit it. The women were howling. Leave her alone. When Kai Feng and Xiao Zhao tried to leave before eating, King Wan chased them down. My husband sent me to get you. You worked all morning. You have to eat. Wang's eyes went red. You guys are such good people. We treated you so badly before. During lunch, I sat next to Darcy's father, the village blacksmith. I asked him about their iron working techniques. We just hit and hammer it. Real smelting happens at big foundries with tall furnaces. They fill the furnace and burn it with charcoal. It takes forever and uses mountains of the stuff. With charcoal? I asked. Nothing else. What else would they use? So they hadn't discovered coal yet. That meant no advanced furnaces either. The entire empire's metallurgy was stuck in the dark ages. This was a huge problem, but also a massive opportunity for me. I felt someone watching me and turned around. Su Shu was standing by the stove, staring at me with a water ladle in her hand. When we made eye contact, she blushed and looked at me, pouring water into a pot that was already totally overflowing. Most of them hadn't tasted meat or wine in 2 years. The meal cost nearly 10 taels of silver, which made Xiaobai cringe. But King Shu put it well, spending money wins hearts. Nothing is more valuable than loyalty, I agreed. When we can't afford it, money is the least important thing. If it buys goodwill and support, that is the real treasure. I went inside to tell King Wan I was heading to town. She was counting coins with intense precision while the tiger kept napped. How much do we have left? I asked. 31 taels and 452 coins, she said without even pausing. A true treasurer. I asked for everything over 20 taels. She handed me 30 taels and kept only about 14 coins. When I raised an eyebrow, she blushed. A husband shouldn't have to keep asking his wife for money. It doesn't look manly. I laughed. Clever girl. I took 4 of the 5 banded horses to sell. Our geldings, a bidding about unable to bring. I kept the youngest one. On the road, a fancy carriage passed me. The curtain lifted and there was John Yor, the woman I'd rescued. She called herself young boss to her driver. So she ran up business. She spatted me and froze. Have we met? Never, I said. She stared at me. Clearly suspicious. Really suspicious. You sure? Your eyes look so familiar. Positive. Good day. She let it go but had her driver follow. I ignored them. In town, I traded my birds and rabbits for a 10-pound jug of green liquor. Then I went to the market and swapped my 4 horses for 4 young mares, 2 foals, and a big cart. My plan was the same as the dare to breed them and build a herd. 2 mares had just given birth and were nursing, which meant milk for the tiger calf. He was going to outgrow one dog's milk supply fast. I stopped at a stationery shop and bought a stack of old waste paper. Not for writing, but for the bathroom. In this era, people were still using dirt cloths and leaves. Rich folks used silk. I could not afford that. But at least paper beat using a communal bamboo scraper that had seen 1,000 baths. On my way to the salt shop to close my refined salt deal, a familiar scent reached my way. Jin Yor showed up next to me again. This time she was alone, no carriage or guards. She just walked beside me, staring with those big, curious eyes of hers. What is your name? She asked. Strangers do not share names. Where are you going? Strangers do not share plans. Where do you live? Strangers do not share their addresses. I know, she snapped, clearly fuming. Is strangers the only word you know? I could also say passing acquaintances or ships in the night, I offered with a helpful grin. Are you playing games with me? Her cheeks puffed up with anger. Stop following me. I am not who you are looking for. How do you know I am looking for someone? She pounced on my mistake. A blind man could see it, I said. Then we reached the salt shop, the Lin family salt company. A massive banner with the name Lin was flying high overhead. As I parked my cart, she looked intrigued. What business do you have at a salt shop? But before I could go inside, shouting erupted from the building. A heavy-set, middle-aged man was being shoved out by a group of young workers. I recognized him immediately. It was the uncle I had rescued the night before. You ungrateful worms! How dare you treat me this way? He screamed. The lead worker, the same carriage driver from this morning, fired back. Lin Yue-shan, you are not the boss. The real owner is Lin Yufeng, and the young boss is Lin Liver. You are just a cousin who embezzled nearly 1,000 taels while managing this shop. Be grateful we did not break your legs. Right then, everything clicked. Shen Yu was a total lie. Her real name was Lin Liver. She was the owner of this very salt shop. Her father had gone missing. Her uncle, Lin Yue-shan, had been stealing while running the place. After her rescue, she moved fast and ruthlessly to seize back control. She kicked him out and had the workers announce his theft, destroying his reputation while securing the moral high ground for herself. Sharp, decisive, and strategic. I had to admit I was impressed, even if she was a born liar. But something still did not add up. A girl this calculating should not have been captured by bandits so easily. Was it really just a moment of carelessness? Then Lin Yue-shan spotted Lin Linger standing right next to me. He exploded with rage, pulling a letter from his pocket and waving it wildly. He saw Linger beside me and lost it, yanked a letter out of his pocket, and started waving it around. Lin Liver, you heartless brat. I saved you from bandits 2 days ago, and now you are throwing me out. Your father left me a letter. This shop goes to me if anything happens to him. You are just a girl who will marry off someday. This is my shop now. As a cruel geyser to watch the drama, Liver's eyes flashed with anger. But then she glanced at me, and a sly look crossed her face. She grabbed my sleeve and put on a helpless expression. My cruel uncle is trying to steal my family's business. Young sir, please save me. I stood there stunned. How did I just get dragged into this mess? I wanted to walk away. But then I realized I was here to negotiate a salt deal with her. If I ruined things now, the deal was dead. I exhaled slowly and turned to face Lin Yue-shan. What does that letter actually say? Who are you to question me? Get lost, Lin Yue-shan barked. He did not recognize me since I had been masked. Before he could react, I snatched the letter and read it quickly. He grabbed it back, but he did not notice that I had already swapped it with a piece of waste paper. Nobody saw the switch, not the uncle, not Linger, not the crowd. You said the letter leaves the shop to you, I said calmly, but that is not what I read. He started reciting it from memory, pretending to read it aloud. "You are holding it upside down," I pointed out. The crook burst out laughing. He had told his niece he could not read. I heard him say it last night, so I said the truth perfectly. He flipped the paper, but I stopped him. "If you want anyone to believe you, get someone else to read it," a couple of scholars volunteered. One opened the letter and read, "Lee Family Clinic specializing in men's problems, particularly impotence," the crowd howled. Another scholar continued, "30 years of medical practice treating women's menstrual disorders." It was just an old advertisement printed on my waste paper. Shan's face went purple. "You switched my letter." Before I could respond, Liver dropped her act and turned ice cold. "Shan, I trusted you. You tried to steal my business while my father was gone. Throw this thief out." Her workers charged with clubs, and he fled like a rat. "Thank you for saving me again," she said sweetly, looking at me with knowing eyes. She was not certain I was her masked rescuer. "Once is a coincidence, twice is a pattern," she sighed, then invited me inside. As we entered, I noticed a round-faced clerk with beady eyes staring at me from behind the counter. When I looked back, he quickly dropped his gaze. I filed that away for later. In the back room, Linger thanked me formally, but I cut straight to business. "I am here to talk about a deal. Do you buy refined salt?" Her face fell. She had clearly been hoping for something a bit more personal, but the words refined salt snapped her back to attention. I handed her a small packet. She tasted a pinch, and her eyes went wide. "This is the quality only imperial officials and the wealthiest merchants can get. The supply is incredibly rare. It never reaches ordinary markets." "Where did you get this?" "I made it myself. From the coarse salt I bought at your shop." She stared at me in disbelief. "You made this?" "I did." After a long pause, she took a deep breath. "How do you want to structure the deal?" "I buy coarse salt from your cost. I refine it and sell it back at 5 taels per pound." She thought for a moment. "You would actually be undercharging. Here is a better offer. Take the coarse salt for free. You make the refined salt. I sell it, and we split the profits 50-50. You will earn more than your 5 taels per pound deal." I was genuinely surprised. That kind of boldness was rare, especially for a young woman back then. Whether it was gratitude for saving her or just sharp business instincts, this was one incredibly generous offer. "A generous offer? Aren't you worried I will just take the salt and vanish?" "I trust my judgment," she said, looking me dead in the eye. She was more certain than ever that I was her rescuer. She looked me right in the eye, more certain than ever that I was the man who saved her life. That explains why she offered such generous terms. But even if I wasn't her hero, the deal was set up so she couldn't lose. I considered the 50-50 split but shook my head. "I prefer guaranteed payment. 5 taels per pound of refined salt. Paid directly to me. Whatever you sell it for after that is your business." She looked annoyed, probably thinking I doubted her sincerity. But she agreed. "Fine. Give me 1,000 pounds of coarse salt. I will deliver 200 pounds of refined salt in 3 days. Her eyes widened as she did the math. 5 pounds of coarse for 1 refined. That beat the imperial math by half. With market prices at 10 taels a pound for refined salt, the profit margins were massive. "Deal," she said, without even blinking. I pushed my luck further. "Can you also lend me 50 strings of coins for hiring workers and buying firewood?" She didn't hesitate. She led me to her clerk and ordered the money counted out. While the clerk counted the coins, his eyes darted around suspiciously, watching me closely. "So what business is the young sir in?" he asked, trying to sound casual. 1,000 pounds of coarse salt is quite a lot. "Refining it," I replied. "No point in lying." His eyes flashed with interest before he quickly masked it. "A rare skill indeed. Where did you learn it?" "Family secret," I said. Once I was alone with Linger outside, I leaned in. "Your clerk seems shady." "I only mention it for the sake of business. He is very loyal," she said coolly. But I caught a sharp, knowing glint deep in her eyes. She already had everything under control. It made me wonder though. How did someone this smart and shrewd get snatched up by bandits in the first place? "Can I at least get your name?" she asked as I prepared to leave. "I can't do business with a total stranger. We're just 2 people who met. Get out." She slammed the door in my face. I just shrugged and drove off with my 1,000 pounds of salt. I had no idea she was watching my every move from the second floor window. I sensed something and looked up. She jerked away to hide and smacked her forehead right on the window frame. Upstairs, she wasn't alone. A tall, wild-looking woman in green fighting gear, with a sharkskin knife at her hip, was lounging on the bed. It was Bayusin. First time I've seen you this obsessed with a man. Baptiste, is this the mystery man you were looking for in the countryside today? Linlinger stomped her foot, totally embarrassed. SHHH, keep your voice down, Bayusin whispered, suddenly turning serious. I am a wanted bandit leader, remember? It turned out Bayusin was her best friend, another who robbed the corrupt and terrorized the local thugs. She was there to borrow 100 taels because her gang was broke. Business was slow. She had scared every nearby bandit into hiding, and the rich had hired extra guards. These were two dangerous women, each playing their own high-stakes game. I was glad I stayed anonymous. What I didn't know was that Linlinger and her friend Bayusin, that wanted bandit leader, had actually staged the entire kidnapping together. Linlinger had intentionally let the Black Wind capture her, while Bai made it on the road to ambush the bandits and rescue her. It was a setup to prove her uncle's treachery and eliminate both threats at once. But I had accidentally ruined the plan by killing those bandits first. Now Linlinger was sending Bai to investigate me, while also planning to use our sole business as bait to lure the rest of the gang into a trap. Meanwhile, I was in town on a shopping spree. I loaded my cart with 1,000 pounds of green veggies, arrows, meat, and 100 pounds of animal bones. I spent nearly every coin I had. On the way home, I knew I was being followed. I pushed the horses to full speed. I passed my village in a road 20 miles. I cut through the dense forest on hidden paths and doubled back home. My shadow was completely lost. It was Bayusin, and she was stunned that I had actually managed to shake her off. He's an expert at vanishing, she muttered in disbelief. When I finally made it back to the village, my blood ran cold. A crowd surrounded my dear pen. I heard crying. I pushed through and found Dashi, Xiaobai, and Qingshu lying on the ground, covered in blood. Qingwan and little Qingyu were cleaning their wounds, while the parents wept over their boys. The village chief, Su Zhong, stepped up and told me exactly what had happened. Thugs from White Sand village had come snooping round. When they saw the deer, the leper's king, and my beautiful wife, they tried to steal everything and assault Qingwan. My brothers fought back against impossible odds. Xiaobai took a knife to the arm while trying to protect our deer. Dashi attacked their leader and held on tight even while the whole group beat him nearly to death. Qingshu refused to let go of the leopard's skin until they smashed a rug against his head. Qingwan and Qingyu ran for help. The thugs fled when the villagers arrived, but they took a young deer and the leopard's skin with them. I checked my brothers. Xiaobai's cut was just flesh painful, but not life-threatening. Dashi was beaten bloody, but no bones were broken. Qingshu's head wound was bleeding heavily, but his skull seemed to be intact. They would all survive. I stood up, my eyes turning so cold that everyone who saw me started to shudder. They beat my brothers, stole my property, and tried to lay hands on my wife. Uncle Su, take care of them. Get some men to help me load my cart. I'm going to settle this. I mounted a horse and took off toward White Sand village. I rode hard, ignoring the chief's warnings that I was completely outnumbered. 15 minutes later, I spotted them lounging in a grove. 7 men, laughing and joking around. One was even wearing my leopard skin like a cheap costume. The stolen deer was tied to a tree nearby, no witnesses. I dismounted 30 paces out, tied up my horse, and walked straight toward them. One of them stood up with a smirk. Well, if it isn't Brother Chan. You come to get even. Just you alone. Just me, I said, raising my crossbow and putting a bolt through his throat. He crumpled instantly. That's enough. I reloaded as another thug screamed that killing with a crossbow was a serious crime. You're right, I said, and put a bolt right through his forehead. The rest panicked. These were just street bullies, not real fighters. These guys had never seen real killing. They screamed and bolted in every direction. I ditched the crossbow, grabbed my hunting bow, and left for Charles 5th. 4 men, 4 heads in the back, 4 bodies done. Only Wutian was left. The leader stood there in my leopard skin, shaking and too scared to move. I walked right up, take off my leopard skin. He stripped fast, begging for mercy and blaming the booze. I grabbed his hair and pressed the blade to his throat. He screamed that his uncle worked for the government and would hand me down. I just shoved the knife into his throat and twisted. I pushed him aside, avoiding the blood. 7 bodies total. I dumped them off a cliff for the wolves. Then I grabbed my throats, the leopard skin, and the deer. Back at the village, everyone swarmed me. Did you catch them? Suzhong asked, looking totally stressed. Suzhong was panicking. I cut them, beat them up, and got our stuff back, I said, keeping it cool. They stared, shocked, when against 7 and I did not have a scratch. If they knew I actually killed them all, they would have fainted. I checked my brothers. All 3 were awake, patched up, and just sitting there by the front door. Chen Shui stood up slowly. Sorry, Brother Chen, we lost and let you down. I told him they had numbers, and they had not trained for real combat yet. It is fine, I said, but I knew I had to speed up their training. Xiao Bai saw the 1,000 pounds of sword and asked what it was for. Qin Shu glared at him. Does Brother Qin have to explain every single little thing to you? Just follow orders. Xiao Bai shut his mouth fast. I turned my attention toward Suzhong. Uncle Suzhong, we need to talk. Just tell me, he said, smiling. I told him this. Starting tomorrow, I am buying firewood grass from everyone wholesale. Buying wood grass from everyone wholesale. 30 coins per bundle of wood. 15 for grass. I also need 10 women daily, 20 coins each to boil salt water. The village went wild. Things were rough, and I was offering steady work. Suzhong could barely keep it together. He was so happy. You're trying to make us rich. I cannot promise that, I said, but there is daily pay, never late. The news spread in minutes. Everyone was buzzing. After dinner, I sat my brothers and Qingwen down by the lamp. They looked tense. They knew something big was coming. I am making refined salt to sell, I told them. Qingwen knows the process and will teach you. But this method is a total secret. Even family cannot know. After today's fight, I did not have a single doubt about their loyalty to me. They would bleed for me. They earned my trust. Qinqi, you're in charge of everything tomorrow. Go home tonight and plan everything out. Who handles the firewood? Who manages the workers? And who tracks the money? I will have a written plan ready by morning, he said. This kid really had the mind of a commander. Then I told Xiao Bai to stay. I was finally teaching him the contemporary crossbow. He almost fell off his chair. He was so hyped. Dashi looked worried about being left out. I told him his turn was coming soon with iron and weapons. He flashed a huge, goofy grin. Once the others left, I explained the basics to Xiao Bai. The moment he got the 3-string calibration, everything just clicked for him. How did you figure this out? He asked. Totally amazed. It just came to me in a dream, I told him. Did the god of carpentry visit you? He was dead serious. I told him to grab whatever materials he needed to build us all crossbows. All weapons stayed at my house, and the technique is never shared. After he left, I started working on a small hand crossbow for Qingwan. Simple system, auto-loading, but small. It only hits 30 paces, but that is plenty to take someone down at close range. What are you making? Qingwan asked, bringing me water and holding the tiger cup. After today, I told her, you need a weapon. I am making you a hand crossbow to carry everywhere. She tried to say no, but I was firm. I cannot always protect you. In this world, you have to protect yourself. She bit her lip and finally agreed. I stayed up working late into the night. When I finally left the workshop, I thought she would be asleep. Instead, she was sitting by the lamp, spinning thread at her wheel. The tiger cub was asleep in its nest at her feet, in that warm glow, wearing simple clothes with no jewelry. She was truly the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. I stood there, totally lost in the moment, watching her spin thread in the soft light. I realized something important. For the first time in 2 lives, I was actually enjoying myself. My old life was all work business. I never even got married. Now I have a home, people counting on me, and someone waiting up for me. She kept me staring and gave me a smile. What is it? She asked. I looked at her old, slow spinning wheel. My inner engineer was screaming at me to redesign the whole thing. I will upgrade that for you soon, I said. You can do that too. She looked at me like I was some kind of genius. I will fix that up for you soon, I promised. She gazed at me like I was some kind of god. I left, put my arm around her, and said it is time for bed. It is that time of the month, she whispered. I sighed. But then after we lay down, her hand crept under my blanket. I cannot do everything, she whispered. blushing hard, but I can still. Well, I will spare you the details. Next morning, I felt amazing. My energy was endless since I arrived here, hunting, fighting, and being with her every night. I just felt stronger. Without her help, I would probably burst. My 3 brothers showed up at dawn despite being hurt, ready to train. I admired their toughness and led them up the mountain, adjusting the drills to protect their injuries. After the run, I taught them hand-to-hand combat. I started with Dashi, the strongest, and tossed him around like a ragdoll using wrestling techniques. The others watched in stunned silence. How are you doing that? Xiaobai gasped. He can't even use his strength against you. It's called bridge wrestling, I explained. It builds flexibility, power, and technical at once. I let them all experience the toss. By the end, Dashi and Xingshu were covered in fresh bruises on top of yesterday's. Over breakfast, Xingshu handed me his business plan for the sword, read it and organized. The operation was laid out with every person's role clearly assigned. Impressive work. Your pay is 50 coins a day, meals included, 0 fraud. 50 coins daily was massive, totaling about 1.5 silver tiers a month. Most families earned 5 tiers a year. They tried to refuse, but I shut that down. No arguments. I also told Qinchu to bring his sister, Qinyi, to work with Qinwan at the same weight as the women. His eyes turned red. She was just 12 and I was paying her full wages. Yes, Brother Chan, he said, wiping his eyes hard. Then the women arrived and it was chaos. Word had spread that I was hiring 10 workers at 20 coins per day. Every woman in the village stampeded toward my house like a Black Friday sale, screaming and waving. They were terrified of missing out. Qinwan tugged my sleeve nervously. If you only pick 10, would the rest cause trouble? Let's see how Qinchu handles it, I said. A true leader identifies talent and gives people room to grow. This was Qinchu's test. He handled the crowd perfectly. Standing behind a table, calm as stone, he called out that everyone would get a turn. Register your names, form groups of 10, and rotate daily. Anyone who causes trouble loses their spot permanently. The kids typed instantly. Over 100 women registered within minutes. He organized them into rotating groups so everyone earned money fairly. Each group worked one day. Then the next took over. Qingwen watched, impressed. He's really talented, she said. Then we fired up 5 large stoves in the yard. Each had 2 women, 1 feeding the fire and 1 boiling salt water. Xiaobai measured the coarse salt precisely according to Qingwen's ratios. Once the brine was boiled twice, workers carried wooden buckets to the small storeroom. Inside that room, off limits to everyone else, Qingwen and the little Qinyi handled the secret steps. They added the wood as solution and filtered it. Her salt was nearly as good as mine. She'd even pre-measured the ash into packets for efficiency. Smart girl. Dashi held buckets back and forth. Qinchu and everything else buying firewood, paying workers, and keeping records. The kid was stretched thin, but he never lost control. I paid 30 coins per bundle of wood and 15 per bundle of grass, cash on delivery. Qinchu was strict about quality and weight. Nobody tried to cheat. By noon, even Zhou came running with a bundle of grass, thrilled to earn 15 coins. She and her mother rushed out to cut more. While things ran smoothly, I fed the deer mixed medicinal deer blood liquor, and finished building Qingwen's hand crossbow. The first batch of refined salt came out beautifully. I praised Qingwen and Qinyi. They beamed with pride. Our fine salt was perfect. I praised the girls again and they were glowing with pride. At dinner time, I called out to the working women, everyone come eat. They stared in shock. You're feeding us, plus 20 coins a day, just rice and vegetables, nothing fancy. The place erupted. In these times, the job and a free meal were beyond anyone's dreams. One bold woman laughed, saying I was too good to them. She joked they had buns to share too. The others howled, eyeing me hungrily. I retreated fast. I could face bandits, but a mob of flirtatious village women was too much. The women outside the wall looked ready to die of jealousy. But just as everyone sat down, commotion broke out at the firewood station. Qinchu was pointing at an open bundle looking furious. Brother Zhou, this isn't right. You put rocks inside the firewood to cheat the weight. That's flat out fraud. The cheater was a scrawny man named Zhou-san. Qinchu had caught him stuffing rocks into his bundles to add weight. I told Qinchu to let it slide once, but Zhou-san did it again. Half the bundle was stones. Qin Shu handled it well. He made Zhou Sen return the money and rejected the new bundles. Zhou Sen begged, but Dashi cracking his knuckles nearby, and at that, Zhou Sen finally slapped his coins down it and laughed with a poisonous look. There is always one rotten apple in the barrel. We move on. The women were incredible, with good food and fair pay. They burned through 500 pounds of coarse salt in a single day. At this rate, we'd finish the 1,000 pounds in 2 days ahead of schedule. That evening, Qingwan counted the output. Qingwan tallied the numbers. 120 pounds of raw fine salt a day. If the ratio holds, the 4,000 pounds of coarse salt yields over 240 pounds of pure salt. We only liver 200, leaving 40 for us. At 5 taels per pound, that's 1,000 silver taels coming in. Qingwan's eyes practically turned into gold coins. Everyone had their evening tasks. Qingwan's pants read while little Qinny helped her. Qinshu worked on the accounts. Outside, Dashi was smashing all broken swords into tiny pieces with a stone pestle. I told him to crush them fine. He didn't know why, but he swings the hammer heavily. Xiaobai sat in the workshop while I helped him assemble his new crossbow. The next day was the same routine training in salt production. The whole village was buzzing with energy and new income. Everyone was earning except Zhou Sen. He lurked around the village, bitter and hungry, cursing me for cutting him off over some rocks. Then, two strangers appeared. They rode in from Watsand village, searching for Wu Tian and his gang who had been missing for 2 days. Zhou Sen's eyes lit up with pure malice. He saw his chance for revenge. Wu Tian? Yeah, I saw them, he said, his rotten mind already churning. They came here, got into a fight with some guy, and then he chased them off with a bow and arrows. Whether he killed them, I can't say. The 2 men leaned in, eyes hard. Who chased them? Him, Li Chan. He lives upon the hill. Zhou Sen pointed toward my house as full of spite. The 2 strangers rode up an old man named Wu Chongqing and a one-armed village chief named Ma Wu. Wu Chongqing's eyes were murderous. My brother sensed the danger immediately. Without a word, Qin Shui stood up slowly. Dashi sat on his sword bucket and gripped a thick wooden staff. Xiaobai's hand slid under his workbench to his homemade crossbow, silently pouring the ring taut. They all knew what I had done to those 7 thugs. I had come back that day without a scratch, but my killing intent was so thick even the villagers felt it. Now Watson village had come looking. My brothers were ready. If it came to a fight, they would follow me anywhere. Are you Li Chan? The old man barked. What did you do to your 7 young men? I do not know what you are talking about, I said calmly, signaling my brothers to stand down. Do not play dumb. Someone here said you chased them with a bow. Give them back or we will tear you apart. Elder, I respect your age, I said quietly. But do not mistake my youth for weakness, and do not throw false accusations. Whoever told you that? Bring them here. Let them see to my face. I let my eyes go cold. Not for force, just enough. Wu Chongqing's whole body shuddered. He staggered back, teeth chattering, unable to meet my gaze. Whatever he saw in my eyes was not some 19-year-old boy. Ma stared at me in shock. He could feel the pressure rolling off me like a tidal wave, something that made him want to look at me. Mao went to fetch the informant and found Zhou Sen lurking behind a tree watching the show. He dragged the little weasel over by the scruff of his neck. Oh, it is you, I said, looking at Zhou Sen. My gaze passed over him like a blade across his throat. Zhou Sen, my gaze passed over him like a blade across his throat. He started trembling uncontrollably. He could feel it in his bones. If he spoke against me, I would kill him. He was starting to regret coming. But then he saw my yard, the workers, and the bustling operation. Jealousy burned away his fear. He remembered being humiliated over those rocks in the firewood. He gritted his teeth, pointed at me, and screamed. Yes, it was him. I saw him right after them with a bow. He killed your people. Arrest this murderer. Dead silence. Dashi exploded from the yard, cursing. You backstabbing maggot. How dare you lie about Brother Chan? Qin Shui stared at Zhou Sen with eyes like black ice. Xiaobai gripped his crossbow so hard his knuckles went white, fighting the urge to put a bolt through the trader's chest. The witness is right here. What do you have to say? Wu Chongqing roared, pointing at Zhou Sen. I just raised an eyebrow. He says I killed them, so it must be true. The old man drew a blade from his saddle. Surrender now or I will cut you down. I did not even glance at his sword. You have your witness, I have mine. Qin Shui stepped forward without hesitation. Wu Tian and his gang came here and tried to rob us. Our villagers chased them off. Brother Chan was in town that day and came home late. He never saw them. Dashi and Xiaobai stood up beside him. That is exactly what happened. Then, King Wan rushed over and grabbed my arm. My husband was home all evening. He never left. He never saw any Wu Tian. I almost left. My sweet, honest wife was lying through her teeth for me without blinking. Qin Shui turned to the working women. Why don't you ask the rest of the village? That was all it took. Dozens of women surged forward like a flood, surrounding the strangers with a wall of righteous fury. How dare you accuse our Li Chan? We were all here helping him that day. He never left. The Zhou-san is a cheat who got cars stuffing rocks in his firewood. He is just taking revenge. Oh man, you believe that little missile? Did you leave your brain at home? The verbal assault was devastating. Wu Chongqing turned purple and even Mao was sweating under the brush. I noticed Dashi and Xiaobai giving Qin Shui secret thumbs-ups. The kid had mobilized an entire village in seconds. He was borrowed for this. Then, village chief Sujan arrived carrying firewood. Mao grabbed onto him like a drowning man. He explained the situation fairly, just the facts, no bias. The level of objectivity actually impressed me. But before Sujan could think, Qin Shui jumped in smoothly. Uncle Su, we already explained everything. Zhou-san is just lying because he got kicked out for cheating this morning. The hint was seamless. Sujan caught on instantly. Oh, the business? Of course, I can vouch for Li Chan. He was right here with us unloading his cart. He never went anywhere. He turned to the other man. You boys can confirm, right? Absolutely. He was with us the whole time. Nobody saw him leave. I kept my face blank. But inside I was torn between laughter and genuine emotion. The entire village was lying for me without a moment's hesitation. Wu Chongqing snarled at Sujan about the responsibility. But Sujan's face went cold. I am the village chief of Moor Village. I do not need outsiders telling me how to do my job. Mao Will, clearly the smarter of the two. But apologetically, this was clearly a misunderstanding. Sorry for the trouble, safe travels, I said flatly. Wu Chongqing climbed onto his horse and pointed his whip at me, looking like he was about to make a threat, poised to threaten me. But Xiaobai flicked a sharp pebble at the horse's rear. The animal screamed and bolted downhill, bouncing the old man around until he flew off and tumbled down the slope. Good riddance, you old fart, Xiaobai cackled. Mao rushed after his body. The whole village erupted in laughter that echoed through the mountains. Zhou-san slipped on me during the commotion, crawling through the trees like a rat. Smart move. He knew if he stayed, I would deal with him. But I signaled Qin Chun not to chase. Not yet. Suzhong cursed Zhou-san's name. That scum has always been trouble stealing, even trying to assault a widow once. And now this betrayal. I raised my hands and bowed to everyone. I owe you all. Thank you, Xinwan bowed to, tears streaming. Thank you for protecting my husband. The villagers would not hear it. You saved our lives and feed our families, even if you killed those thugs. They deserved it. You're the heart of this village. We'll protect you no matter what. Xinwan cried harder. I felt something deep stir inside me. This was what winning hearts truly meant. 3 people right and they will lay down their lives for you. Suzhong laughed. Even if White Sand Village brings the whole county government, nobody here saw anything, right? The whole village roared. Qin Shui watched me with shining eyes. Then whispered to Dashi and Xiaobai. This is what spending money to win loyalty really looks like. Learn from Brother Chan. I thumped my chest with my fist. If Moor Village ever faces danger, I will repay this debt with my life. Then I announced another feast for that afternoon: meat, wine, and steamed buns. Suzhong tried to refuse, but I insisted. Mayan, leaning over the wise usual, offered her buns again. I covered my eyes. Your husband would kill me. Everyone roared with laughter. I am going hunting for more game, I announced, grabbing my weapons. But we have meat at home, Dashi started. Shut up, you idiot, Xiaobai hissed. I walked down the path in plain sight, but once I rounded a corner out of view, I cut through the bushes and climbed the mountain, tracking Zhou-san's trail. Following a calm man through the woods was child's play for me. Zhou-san had no survival skills and he was weak from years of poor eating. He could not have gone far. I tracked him easily, even pausing to shoot a few birds along the way. I found him sitting against a pine tree, panting and fanning himself while muttering curses. Just wait, Li Chan. I will go to White Sand Village and tell the Wu family you murdered their boys. They have relatives in the county government. They will throw you in prison and have you executed. I stepped up behind him. Zhou Sen. He jumped to his feet and spun around. The bowstring sang. The arrow punched through his forehead and out the back of his skull. He was dead before he hit the ground. After dealing with Zhou Sen, I got lucky in the forest. Two rode there were drinking at a stream. I shot one and the other ran off, but then came back to stare at me with the dumbest expression I had ever seen. I could not let that level of stupidity go unrewarded, so I took it too. About 130 pounds of meat between them. I rigged a carrying pole and hauled them home, arriving just as the women finished their salt work and started cooking for the feast. The place was alive with activity. Tables were set up inside and outside the yard. Kids crowded around Xingning, cooing at the tiger cup. Liu Jinsui was helping Xingwan organize the cooking. Chen Chu was at his books. Dashi was wrestling a group of teenage boys and winning easily with the techniques I taught him. Xiaobai was tucked in a corner obsessively filing down crossbow parts. Everyone spotted me coming down the mountain with two fat deer and erupted in cheers. Mountain God reborn, to roll deer. He never comes back empty-handed. Dashi puffed out his chest proudly. My brother Chan is the greatest hunter in the world. No, the greatest man, woman-tist. Oh yes, especially at the kind of fighting he does without clothes on. But brother Chan doesn't take his clothes off to fight, Dashi said, confused. Everyone laughed while he scratched his head. I announced both deer would be butchered and shared among every household. The village erupted again with gratitude. I did not notice the cruel conversation between Xingwan and Su Shu by the washing station. Xingwan was grateful to Shu for defending her against police and sharing food when they were starving. And Xingwan had noticed what everyone else could see. Shu had feelings for me. Back when I was a worthless troublemaker, her family had forbidden any involvement. Now that I had changed, it was too late. I was already married. Apparently, Xingwan leaned over and whispered, Sure, do you have anyone you like? Sure turned bright red. Why would you ask something like that? My husband is a good man. Xingwan said quietly. Maybe you should consider him. Sure nearly dropped her vegetables. Are you crazy? What wife offers up her own husband? I mean it. I think he's always had a place for you in his heart too. But before she could finish, the crowd exploded with cheers as Dashi brought the deer in. Xingwan smiled at the flustered Sure. Think about what I said. Xingwan smiled at the flustered Sure. Think about what I said. I am serious. She walked away, leaving Sure with a racing heart. I did not see the conversation continue with her mother, Liu Jinsui. Apparently, Sure was so flustered after Xingwan's suggestion that she could not even wash vegetables properly. She left mud on the leaves, then scrubbed them to bare stems. Her mother noticed and got the truth. When Liu Jinsui heard that Xingwan had offered to share me with Sure, she looked across the yard at my wife. Xingwan caught her eye, gave a small smile and a nod, then went back to work. What a kind-hearted girl, Liu Jinsui sighed. Li Chan is lucky to have her. She asked Sure how she felt about it. Sure's face turned so red it could have lit a fire. She stomped her feet and whined, Mother. But her eyes told the whole story. The girl's heart was practically leaping out of her chest. The only thing is, you will be the second wife, Liu Jinsui said gently, with someone as good as Xingwan. There will be no first or second, Sure shot back. Then she realized what she had just admitted and fled mortified. Meanwhile, I finally got to sit down. The road there were butchered and divided among every household. My way of thanking the village for standing behind me. Su Zhang, the elder, sat with me, worried about the Wu family. They warned me the Wus were thugs with friends in high places. Rumor said Wu Chongqing was a former bandit who killed a guy and got off easy because of his connections. I just shrugged. Without proof, they can't touch me. If they try something in the dark, let's see if they actually have the guts. Then, dinner started. Over 300 people from the village sat down together. Men at the front, women behind, and kids squeezed into corners with bowls piled high with rice and meat, their faces covered in grease. Su Zhong stood up, holding a bowl of rice wine. For 2 years of drought, war, and famine, we were staring death in the face. Then Li Chan changed everything. In 5 days, we've had me 3 times, run twice, and found real work. We're finally building a future. So what do we say? Thank you. Brother Chan, 300 voices roared back. Whenever Brother Chan needs us, we'll be there. Sujong raised his bow toward me. Even the little kids lifted their bows. The whole village shouted as one. I stood up, praised my wine, and drank it. We're family now. No need for fancy speeches. In that moment, everything shifted. The village united around a single leader, and that leader was me. That night, the workshop was buzzing. Xiaobai worked on his crossbow beside me, asking questions while I started a secret project. Out in the main room, Qin Shui was trying to teach Dashi how to read. The big guy kept nodding over his book until Qin Shui smacked him with it. Brother Chan says if you can't remember today's characters, no training tomorrow. Dashi snapped awake instantly. Okay, I'll learn. Little Chuni giggled behind her book. Qinwan smiled too, spinning red with a tiger cub tucked into a pouch against her chest. The little guy's eyes were still closed, but he'd already claimed her. He was her baby now. Every time he got hungry, he made a sound that almost sounded like mama. Xiaobai finally finished his crossbow and brought it over. I loaded it, aimed at a coin-sized target 10 paces away, and hit the bullseye. Excellent work, I said. His skill was almost on my level now. Working together, we could build one compound crossbow every single day. But I kept that weapon. Carrying something that powerful makes you want to use it. Until you can control that urge. This stay with me, he understood. Then he noticed the pile of weird parts I was making and asked what they were. He asked exactly what they were. You'll see when they're finished, I told him. Then I asked how many villagers actually had woodworking skills. He figured 12 or 13 experts, but almost 80 people had basic skills. Most families here were descended from military carpenters who'd fled to the village generations ago. Skills were passed down, even without official titles. Make me a list and rank them by talent, I said. After midnight, everyone went home. I slept. Then woke up to start training. This time, after the conditioning, I introduced short spear techniques alongside knife fighting and wrestling. The spear was 5 feet long, shorter than a lance, but it had more reach than a sword. In close combat, reach wins, I explained, but being too long makes it clumsy. This length is the sweet spot. I demonstrated a quick feint and thrust. The wooden staff blurred, punching clean through a straw dummy and sending it flying. That's way faster than a blade, Qinshu gasped. I taught them basic thrusts. No flashy moves, just straight line kills and counters. They do it relentlessly. Qinwan practiced with her hand crossbow, firing away at a target. Her aim was shaky, but practice would fix that. After lunch, I kept the boys training while I hitched 2 horses to the cart. I told them they could ride the spare horses for Funkori cavalry practice, but to be careful. Dashi let out a war cry and galloped off like a lunatic. I loaded 200 pounds of refined salt onto the cart, keeping the extra 41 pounds hidden at home. Time to deliver tilling liver and get paid. But the moment I left the village, I felt it. Someone was watching me. I sensed someone watching me, but nothing happened on the road. Until I sold my game birds for 3 silver taels first. Then I put out a small jar of their blood wine at the restaurant. The owner recognized the liquor, but froze when he saw the deep red color. This is wild deer blood wine, you know the benefits, right? His eyes lit up instantly. He offered 1 silver tael per jar. I bought 10 pounds of plain liquor for 1 tael total mixed in deer blood, and now each jar was worth a tael. 10 times the profit. I didn't take half. I traded for 100 pounds of plain liquor instead. Next trip, that's 100 taels. The restaurant owner waved goodbye like a lovesick maiden. At the salt shop, the round-faced clerk greeted me with a warmth that felt a little too suspicious. I saw the greeting in his eyes but didn't say a word. Then liver came out from the bag. No makeup, but still standing with that cold, distant edge. I have your delivery, I said. Already. It's only been 2 days. I carry both 100-pound salt bags in myself, one in each hand. She watched me closely. You're remarkably strong. You remind me of someone I met once, a long time ago. Just used to heavy labor, I said, not admitting a single thing. Her workers weighed the salt, 200 pounds exactly. Then they poured it into basins, white as snow and fine as sand. It sparkled. The clerk stared at it with pure greed. Linger tasted samples from different bags and nodded. Quality product, honest weight. You're a man of your word. She ordered a banknote for 1,000 taels. I shook my head. Cash, 900 taels of silver and 100 strings of copper. I needed real money for supplies and to pay the workers. She didn't blink while taking all that silver. I thought about killing one if I give her copper coins. She'd spend all night counting them instead of sleeping on the pile. I have 4 more things to talk about, I said. She led me to the back room, acting professional. But I could tell her mind was racing beneath the surface. I had 4 things to tell Linlever and I wasn't going to waste time playing games. First point, my name is Li Chan. I live in Moor Village now. Since you know that, stop sending people to tell me. Her face turned bright red. Her face went red. She wanted to deny it but eventually just nodded. Second, I need 2,000 pounds of coarse salt. I'll deliver 400 pounds of raw fine salt in 3 days. She agreed instantly. I could tell she'd already found buyers at 12 taels per pound. Third, we need an official contract. Things change after our first deal. Other villagers were sniffing around and I needed some real legal protection. A formal agreement helped both our interests. She was caught off guard but agreed. We called a clerk, did the paperwork and stamped it with an official seal. Simple and binding. What is the fourth thing? She asked. Your clerk is a liability. He's way too interested in how I make salt. If he teams up with the wrong people like bandits and they grab me, this business is over. She was stunned by my bluntness. She actually asked for my recipe. Name your price, she said. You know what I mean, I replied, looking her right in the eyes. If you've got your own plans for me, tell me now. Trust is the foundation of any profit, and I don't like being played. Give me an answer next time I visit. Her face cycled through several colors. She was used to being the smartest person in the room, but I'd read her completely. One more thing, I added. And she knew it. Just one more thing, I added. The girl who followed me last time is good. She's probably your best fighter. Tell her to keep her distance. I'd hate for there to be a misunderstanding. Her jaw dropped. I'd figured out her tracker was a martial arts expert, and she hadn't said a word. I packed my contract, grabbed my bags, and walked out. I heard later that Ling went upstairs and smashed several expensive teacups in a total rage. She cursed me with every word she knew. I had completely dominated the conversation, leaving her stammering like a little schoolgirl. Then her friend Bai Yu-sung climbed through the back window and found the wreckage. What happened to you? She laughed, pouring tea from the only surviving cup. He's going to be the death of me, Linlinger sighed. What I didn't know was that they were having a serious conversation about me back at the salt shop. Bai Yu-sung proudly announced she'd successfully tracked me this time, only for Linlinger to coldly explain that I'd already volunteered my address myself and warned them to immediately stop following me. Linlinger twisted my words, telling Bai Yu-sung I threatened to beat her up if she followed me again. That really lit a fire under the warrior woman. No man alive can be me, she growled. Linlinger was deliberately provoking her, hoping she would go out and intimidate me. Clever and petty at the same time, they also discussed the clerk. Linlinger hated that I spotted the threat in just 2 visits. Nothing escaped my notice. Bai Yu-sung said she had a plan but needed my help. On my ride home, I sensed someone telling me again. This one was much more skilled, almost certainly Bai Yu-sung herself. I didn't care. Let her watch. Back at the village, I went to check on the deer. They were settling in nicely. I calculated the deer blood wine production. We could get about 100 pounds every 3 days without hurting the animals. Once the herd grew, I could scale up. At home, everyone was busy. King Shu had stacked the firewood into perfect piles. The kid's obsession with the order was wild. Dashi was smashing rocks for strength training. Xiaobai was building crossbows while King Wan practiced her aim as her sister cheered her on. And there was the new face Sushir was there too. She was actually pretty good with a crossbow from 20 paces. But the moment I pulled up with the cart, her mood shifted. She saw me glance at her and suddenly handed the weapon back to King Wan. I should go home, she said quietly, leaving before anyone could stop her. Dashi scratched his head. She was happy a second ago. The guys kicked him off the cart for being a total idiot. I knew she was feeling uncertain about her place here. When Dashi started unloading, he found the money, the salt, the grain, the liquor, and finally held up a large iron crucible that we needed for the shop. Brother Chan, are you getting into blacksmithing now? He asked. Xiaobai told him to shut up, then screamed even louder when he opened the money bags. He slapped a hand over his mouth. Sold money, I said simply. Dashi, go get your father. We're going to smelt iron. His jaw dropped. While they went to fetch the blacksmith, King Won tried to play matchmaker again. She listed all of Sheer's good qualities: strong, beautiful, and hard-working. I stopped her with a look. "What are you trying to say?" She stammered and retreated. I knew exactly what she was doing. Trying to sell me on her. Having multiple wives was normal back then and I could afford it. But in chaotic times, love can become a weakness. Women, just slow down your sword hand. I'll think about it later. Every person you love becomes a weakness. Women, just slow down your sword hand. I'll deal with that later. King Won shuffled away looking defeated. I heard her muttering that I should organize my arguments better. Soon, Dashi returned with his father, holding their entire blacksmith setup: forge, bellows, iron blocks, the works. Blacksmith shop was actually thrilled to work together. I told him I learned some new techniques from a traveling refugee. Since they're different from his, I asked him to watch while I worked. He agreed, having no clue what was coming next. First, I coated the inside of my clay crucible with grinding stick. This would make it heat-resistant and help it last longer. Shao just stared, totally confused. Then I layered Dashi's crushed scrap iron with charcoal and borax, sealed the crucible, and lit the forge. I put the bison on non-stop bells duty, rotating shifts, no breaks, not even for food. Shao kept picking at the furnace, looking completely baffled by my process. He'd never seen anyone resmelt broken weapons or use borax as flux before. While the iron cooked, I put the bison through the river. We covered crossbow marksmanship, heavy bowed draws, combat techniques, spear thrusting, and Freeman tactical formations. Shao watched with growing unease. This didn't look like hunter training at all. It looked like elite military drills, but more lethal than anything he'd seen in the army. I opened the crucible twice, skimming slag with a preheated willow stick to reduce sulfur. Then I added crushed walnut shells to boost the carbon levels. Shao honestly thought I was making garbage. Then the molten iron poured out and solidified. His jaw dropped. The metal was purer than anything he'd ever produced. Next came the actual forging. I used a nine-fold layering technique, sprinkling quartz, sand, and bone powder between every single fold. After 10 layers, I buried the blade in hot wood as for a slow cooldown. The quenching process was just as complex. First pine resin and tung oil, then saltwater water, and finally hot coarse salt for a measured duration. By sunset, the blade was finally finished. It was longer than a standard sword by half a foot and narrower by half an inch, with a much deeper curve, just an inch with a deeper curve. The surface showed a pine needle green pattern that shimmered like wine in a dark forest. Shao flicked the blade with his finger, testing its resonance. It sang a clear, ringing tone that lasted far longer than any blade he'd ever heard. That meant the steel's toughness, hardness, and flexibility were all extraordinary. "Test it," I said. He slashed at a thick wooden point that split clean with almost zero resistance. Then I struck one of the old broken swords against it. The old blade just snapped in half. My blade had 0 scratches. Everyone stared in stunned silence. "This is a divine weapon," someone whispered. I ran my hand along the flat of the blade. "This is called the Kai family saber, the finest cold weapon design in history." Everyone stared at the blade in awe. When they tried swinging it, every single person said the same thing. It felt like an extension of their own arm.